Story 1. Caught my wife cheating on video, so I left. I came back to find her having a mental breakdown and my son abandoned. So I am a bit lost. It's been about 2 weeks since I found out. I've been suspicious for a while. Lots of red flags, but nothing definite. I decided to confront her. Her reaction, irrational anger. How can you accuse me of something like that? She would never cheat. Made me sure I snooped on her phone and computer, but couldn't find anything. So I bought some small cameras and placed them around the house. Then I went to visit some friends over the weekend. I grew up in Norway, close to the Swedish border. I met my wife in Sweden. I was 20. She was 21, and she had a 3-year-old kid when we met. We hit it off, and I have been that kid's dad for the last 11 years. I love that guy. I consider him my son. We have been married for 6 years. Not that it matters. Long story short, I went home early when I knew she wouldn't be there and watched the footage. Sure enough, there she was, doing adult stuff with another guy. I recognized him as a work colleague, Theodore. We were friendly with him and his wife. I used to believe seeing red was just a figure of speech, but I was seeing red. I have never been that angry. I am actually a very mellow guy. I never really get angry, but I just lost it. I hit the walls. I kicked the bedroom door so hard it flew off its hinges and smashed the glass table we had in the living room. I bit the inside of my cheek. I didn't even notice, but when I screamed, I sprayed the wall and floor with blood. At some point, I managed to hit my head pretty hard, and that snapped me out of it. I looked at the carnage, and I knew I just had to get out of there. Had my wife walked in at that point, I think I would be in jail in the best-case scenario for domestic violence, and in the worst case for slaughtering. I quickly packed a suitcase with essentials and my laptop. I work with simulation and modeling, and my computer is custom, and I need that to do my job. I sent a copy of the video to Theodore's wife. I didn't really write anything in the message apart from, "Your husband is cheating with my wife. I met my son just outside our apartment complex. I gave him a hug, told him I would always love him, but that his mother was cheating on me, so I had to leave. I really regret telling him. He shouldn't be burdened with that, but I wasn't really myself at the time, and it just came out of me. I went to the border. I wanted to go see my family in Norway, but they didn't want to let me cross due to COVID. I've been renting a cheap Airbnb. I'm working, but I'm like a zombie. I haven't talked to my wife. The only person I have responded to is my son. He's been asking me questions. I've been honest with him as far as possible, that I don't know what is going to happen next, apart from divorce. I've been trying to find a good lawyer. I've received hundreds of messages from my wife and her part of the family. I haven't responded to any of it. My parents are the only ones that know on my side, as far as I know. I don't want to talk to my friends because they are friends with my wife as well, so I don't really have good support at the moment. I'm afraid that if I talk to her or see her again, I will lose it and do something I can't take back. I also don't want to lose contact with my son, but I have no idea where to even start. I am still boiling with rage, and I don't know how to get past that. I need to respond to my wife at some point, but I'm so angry that I don't think I'm capable of being rational. I just wanted to try to write this out and see if that helps. So far, I would say it's made no difference at all. Update 1. I'm doing better. I actually visited a cage fighting club. I should really stress that I do not know how to fight at all. I am not really in great shape. The few times I ended up in a fight in my youth, I've had my crap beaten badly. I talked to them and explained the situation. They were actually really friendly and eager to help. First, they made me work out for 2 hours, and when that didn't take the edge off my anger, they put me in the ring with a very experienced fighter. It was clear he was really gentle with me, and even though I did my best, I didn't even give him a workout. It's pretty clear he let me punch and kick him, but he easily blocked whatever I threw at him. The few times I managed to land a blow with a little bit of force, he was quick to give me a smack back. Since I have no clue what I'm doing, his gentle tap slapped me around. Seriously, he would always ask if I was okay before proceeding again. He even apologized a few times for hitting me during our little session when he thought he had maybe hit me too hard. Imagine that, apologizing for hitting the opponent in a fight. He clearly didn't see me as an opponent at all. I doubt he would see me as a threat ever. I have a newfound respect for people that know how to fight and I am determined to learn it. These guys were the chillest people I have ever met. I want to be as calm as them. My little fight helped a lot. It really took the edge off. I don't have that burning anger. I am still pissed, but now it's manageable. I will go back for training and more beatings. Still, I don't trust myself to meet my wife. I have talked to my son. I told him that no matter what, we would be okay. I consider him my son, no matter what happens between his mother and me. I appreciate that. I think you really appreciated that. I have talked to a few common friends and her parents. Apparently, my wife has become sort of unglued. She's been calling and talking to everyone at all hours, day and night. She has apparently confessed everything to almost everyone and even offered money to anyone that could put her in touch with me. I was considering only speaking to my wife via lawyer, but I can't afford that, so I've asked my cousin to act as a go-between. I gave her a few questions to put forward, so we see where it goes from there. I plan to contact the AP's wife next week as well. Some Redditors strongly suggested that I talk to my wife and tell her that if I can adopt my son, I will consider reconciliation, but I would never do that. I will not use my son as a pawn in anything ever. As things stand now, I would love to adopt him, but only if he asks me to and only if I am sure it's what he wants and that he isn't influenced or pressured by anyone. I will get through this. I think I've received so much good advice on here. I feel like I have a plan now to move forward. Update 2. I'm sorry it's been radio silence. I've had my hands full since my last post. I see a lot of questions in my PM messages, so I figured it's easier just to make this update. I started calling my son twice per day after my last post. He would always tell me everything was okay. But I guess it really wasn't. I was focusing on trying to get myself under control. I started going to IC. That helped some. But what really changed things is when I went to try boxing. The first place I visited was kind of grimy and run down. Still, the 5 guys that were there seemed to have this amazing camaraderie going on, and I really wanted in on that. I wanted to belong there badly. They all told me I had to talk to the old man. He was the owner of the place. Apparently he decided who could join or not. They all had a lot of respect for him, so I was kind of apprehensive. Let's just say that the old man has an abrasive personality to begin with. He just listened. But once he started talking, I was quickly getting more and more agitated. There wasn't anything I can really put my finger on. Everything he said was true, and maybe that's what angered me, or maybe it was the tone. Like every question or sentence was an accusation of sorts. The old man made me feel like I was not good enough to become a member of his club, and I suddenly found myself in a position of arguing with him for him to let me prove that I was worthy. I still haven't figured out if he is just an idiot or some kind of genius. That said, the old man has really affected my life in a very positive way, even though he is very uncomfortable to be around. I am starting to see why people have such respect and admiration for him. The old man has helped me understand why I was so angry and how to think more clearly moving forward. It's the story itself, but this is already getting long, so back to the main issue. A few days after my post, about 20 minutes after I had talked to my son, he called me back. He was crying and he apologized for lying to me. He lied when he said everything was okay at home. He went on to tell me that my wife was just sitting in front of the TV, staring at it, even if he turned it off. He didn't have any food to eat. The house smelled, and the only thing he had eaten in the last 2 days was some sandwiches a friend's mother had made for him when he visited. Of course, I immediately rushed home. I could smell the rotten garbage in the hallway even before I got in the door. The house was an absolute filthy mess. It clearly hadn't been cleaned since I left almost a month ago. The floor was covered in crumpled up sheets of paper, overflowing dirty dishes in the sink, broken glass on the floor, rotten garbage. Smell absolutely disgusting. I went to check on my son first. I had picked up a burger for him on the way over. I asked him to stay in this room and eat while I go and talk to his mom. I assured him everything would be okay. I was home. I was going to take care of him. He cried and hugged me for a bit before I went to check on his mother. That hug felt so good. I had missed him so much. I am never leaving him again. My wife sat staring at the screen like my son had described it to me. What he didn't tell me was how terrible she looked. She had lost a terrifying amount of weight. She was just skin and bones. Her eyes were sunk into her head, dark rings, lifeless skin, cracked lips, Messy, dirty hair, filthy clothes. I grabbed a chair and set myself down between her and the TV. The smell coming off her was absolutely terrible. There was a bucket on the floor. Later found out it was half full of weak, old vomit. I felt a deep pain for her. I wanted to protect her, help her, make her better. For a while, I completely forgot what she had done. Seeing her like this was really painful for me. I guess in some ways I still love and care for her, despite what she has done. That fact kind of terrifies me. Something is wrong with me. I didn't know what to say to her, to be honest. She was clearly not all there. She actually asked me if I was real. When I said yes, she broke down crying in a way I've never seen anyone cry before. Her crying, or wailing is probably a better word, was so loud it sort of startled me. Without warning, mid-scream, she either fell asleep or passed out. I put my Fitbit on her arm because I don't really know how to take someone's pulse. Her heart rate was varying up and down between 100 to 150, so I figured that's probably not good. I made sure she was in a comfortable position on the sofa, and I wiped the snot off her face before I ran and asked our neighbor for help. They were happy to look after our son while I took her to the hospital. She has been there for 7 days now. I think I'm a bit blurry on the days, to be honest. I have visited once, but she got so upset from seeing me that the doctors recommended that I don't visit for now. They have no diagnosis for her yet, and they have no idea of when or even if she will come out of it. I have been focusing on taking care of my son since. I have made sure he is in regular IC, and he looks like he is doing better now. There is no doubt he has been traumatized by this. I am drowning in guilt for my part in causing him this pain. I've been in contact with a lawyer to try to get custody rights for obvious reasons. I don't know how that will work out. I have also prepared for divorce, but I am holding off for the time being. Took us several days to clean the house. I decontaminated the fridge with bleach and still it smelled like rotten food, so I actually had to get a new one. I also found that my wife had taken all my dirty laundry into bed and made a body shape of it. It had some additions to make it look anatomically correct, and it's kind of disturbing to be honest. I looked through all her papers that she left all over the house. It's incoherent nonsense for the most part. Some pages have dates and times. I can't understand most of it, apart from some pages that have long lines of "sorry" written on it. Most pages with text just transition into a wiggly line in the middle of a sentence. I don't know what to do. My anger is completely gone, replaced by sadness of the situation and for the trauma and pain inflicted on my son. I feel bad for my wife, but I also understand why I was angry and how I have changed to deal with the pain. I have left a huge piece of myself behind, and she caused that. I don't know if I have it in me to forgive that. A big part of my personality was being a good husband and provider for a long time. That part of me was mortally wounded by her affair. I left that part of me behind. It was just too painful to keep. It's too early to say anything about where we end up. As for now, all avenues are open. I am still hurting and confused. I will just continue to try to rebuild my self-esteem and my self-image of my masculinity. If my wife comes out of it, I will talk to her and see where we go from there. Right now, I need to focus on my son. I need to make sure he is okay. Sorry, it's not anything spectacular like the other stories I have read on here with principled confrontations and epic revenge. I am exhausted and sad. I don't know what to do. It was all so clear-cut in my mind before I came back. Now I just can't see any good ways forward. Update 3. I have some questions. Maybe you can help me shine some light on this from different angles. If you're going to post comments just divorced, don't bother. I will simply ignore you. I know that in the end, whatever happens is my choice, so I will choose what is right for me and my family, whatever I decide that to be in the future. I haven't been sleeping much and I am a bit dazed, so if I ramble a bit, please bear with me. I really appreciate all the different perspectives you give. It really helps me think things through. The wife is still in the hospital. She is refusing to allow anyone to see her apart from her mother. The only instruction she has given, apart from no visitors, is that no one is to talk to me on her behalf or try to pressure me in any way. She has confessed cheating to just about everybody, but not in any detail. Her calls have been panicked along the line of, "I cheated. He is going to leave me. What do I do?" So people have been pretty much leaving me alone unless I have called them to ask for their help or opinion. My wife has written me a letter. Her mother handed it over to me a few days ago. It is long, 32 pages. I will try to summarize the main points here. She apologized for what she's done to me, her son, and us. She says she will sign any paper I put in front of her, no questions asked. Postnup, divorce papers, whatever. She also confesses to a 2-month emotional affair with another man online before the current affair started to turn physical. I didn't know about this at all, so I believe she is being honest. Her confession is very detailed, and she has given me all her login credentials to everything to confirm that she is honest and not hiding anything. She freely admits that she was captivated by the attention and the excitement, but she seems genuinely confused that she allowed any of this to actually transpire. I believe what she has written is the truth. Emails, messages, call logs, etc. back her story up, and she has also pointed me to a thumb drive in one of her drawers that contained a diary going back almost 10 years. Her diary and her letter seem to be in perfect sync from what I have read so far. She explains that the first emotional affair online was more of a game than anything else. Flirting only, no digital flirting or meetup. It went on until suddenly one day she felt compelled to send this guy a message. She immediately ended it, then she couldn't find the courage to tell me. But according to the diary, she was trying. When the main affair started, she was flattered and given a huge ego boost from this guy giving her attention. He is a very handsome guy, model type, and I have met his wife and she is absolutely stunning. 10 out of 10, jaw-droppingly beautiful. My wife's ego rush got addictive, it seems. Getting attention from this beautiful guy that was married to such a beautiful woman gave her a huge boost. She felt like she must be very special to outcompete his beautiful wife for the AP's attention. She admits she knew what she was doing was wrong, but she also seems genuinely confused that she was unable to stop herself. She hates herself for losing control. If I understand this correctly, the affair only turned physical once the AP started to lose interest in her. She started using sex to keep him interested, to keep him giving her attention. From the diary, the sex seems to be more of a chore for her. She doesn't seem to enjoy it. She does it just to get more attention, like it's a prize she gives him for that. It's clear she is struggling with guilt, especially in the beginning, but she soon starts to compartmentalize this. But of course, we drifted apart, and our relationship suffered while she does this. The affair was physical for 4 weeks, and they kissed and fooled around with intercourse 5 times, according to her diary and her confession. This is backed up with her location data and credit card bills for hotels, etc. The rest is history that you already know. Her letter concludes with the following. I don't know who the person was that had the affair, or at least I don't recognize myself doing it. I don't understand how I could so easily abandon my beliefs and my morals and hurt the people in my life that I love more than anything. I don't know why I wasn't able to stop myself. I will not insult you by asking you to understand or forgive me, because I don't deserve understanding or forgiveness. My only hope is that I can be helpful in some way to help you and our son heal. I will do anything you ask of me without question. I will do anything if you think it might help in any way, no matter how big or small. I will live with my mother once I am released from here. I will stay away unless you ask for me. I don't want to remind you with my presence of the pain I have caused both of you. I don't have the words to tell you how sorry I am for what I did. And my greatest wish is that you heal and find someone worthy of your love that you can be happy with. I pray I haven't permanently destroyed your ability to trust and love someone deserving in the future. I will not be with anyone else because I'm clearly not safe to be with. I will seek therapy to try to find and perhaps one day cure what is wrong with me. But as of today, I don't really know who I am or why I couldn't stop myself from doing these things. I knew what I did was wrong, that I was hurting everyone, myself included, but I did it anyway. I was selfish. I caused all of this just so I could feel a little better about myself for a brief moment. Once I saw the pain on your face on the camera you left behind in the bedroom, the heartbreaking pain on your face while you were watching the tape with me and the other man. At that moment I realized how delusional I am and how terrible and evil I had become. I am afraid there is no salvation for me. I will always love you. I wish I could undo it all, take it all back. But I can't. I'm sorry. I ugly cried reading it, and I really don't know what to do. I've been up all night reading, and I am emotionally drained, confused, and unsure of everything. I watched the video again, and I also watched the video of me going insane. I don't remember a lot of what happened that is on the video. It is very painful to watch my wife's actions, but I have been looking at it over and over again. Why can't I stop looking at it? It is also very disturbing to watch myself go crazy, and I can't stop doing that either. I keep going back and watching it from start to the end, over and over again. I try to put it away, but an hour or so later, I find myself back watching it all over again. It's hurting me, so I don't understand why I do it. Also, is what she's saying even possible, that a person can be pulled into an affair where behavior becomes compulsive like she describes it, where it's not really a free choice anymore? Maybe a WW on here could share some insight. I also clearly see from her diaries that she probably developed depression about 3 years ago after her favorite aunt died. Her perspective on life becomes very dark after this, almost hopeless, I would say. I've read other stories where depression seems to cause drastic personality changes and be triggers for affairs. Any insight would be appreciated on this. She clearly never loved any of these men. She loved the ego boost, the increased self-esteem, the rush she felt from them seemingly telling her the right things. On D-Day, she totally cut her AP out of her life and called his wife and told her about the affair. I know this because the AP's wife told me when I met her. She actually asked me if we could have a revenge affair. She was very focused on this. Getting revenge like that would help anything. But beauty aside, she is probably the most annoying woman I've ever met. Talking to her was like nails on a chalkboard. Needless to say, we will not be having an affair, and we will never ever meet in person again. I don't know what to do now. I can't sleep. I can't really think, so I could really use some help. Update 4. I am very grateful to everybody on this forum. I have received a lot of help to better navigate this disaster. I am okay now. I feel I am back in control of things. I've been trying to get to see my wife. She refuses still, and her mother still acts as a go-between. I tried to call her out on her promise in her letter to me that she would do anything if I thought it would help in any way. So her mother relayed the message that I believed us talking would help. I also asked her to see her doctor together to try to help me understand. The doctor will not tell me anything without her present. I will try to be patient. In summary, I've been diagnosed with PTSD, and my wife has been diagnosed with persistent depression and some bipolar disorder. She has a chemical imbalance in her brain, and they are trying out different medications for her. Many of you were right. Her condition made her vulnerable, then a predator crossed her path, and here we are. Her AP has been cheating consistently on his wife for their entire relationship with multiple women in parallel, most of the time. They are divorcing. The AP has been beaten up a bit. Not badly, from what I have heard. The AP's wife called the husbands of most of the women he has had affairs with. I have a friend staying with me most days. He keeps me focused. I'm going camping with my son this weekend. I was trying to confirm if the descriptions in her diary were correct, that she considered the sex as a chore, and watching her disconnected behavior and facial expressions in the video, she is basically just waiting for it to be over. I have not decided what to do, but I have deleted the video of her and of me going crazy. It was just causing me pain, and I just couldn't put it away. One part of me is screaming at me to just walk away, to run and find someone else. What if she cheats again? How can I trust her? Can I get rid of the movie running on a loop in my mind? Will I divorce her in X years because I can't get past this, etc.? I struggle a lot with these types of questions, but divorce would definitely mean that I lose some daily contact with my son, and there is no doubt that he needs me, at least for now. He is terrified of being abandoned. Not that strange considering recent events. I think if I leave his mother now, it would make things worse for him. If I leave her like she is now, what's preventing me from leaving him? He will probably look at it like that. The two of us have started going to the boxing gym together, and we are bonded stronger than ever. Being there for my son is giving me tremendous strength and motivation to face this with an open mind. He is leaning heavily on me at the moment, so even if I decided to divorce, I'm not sure if I could actually go through with it in the short term. He has begged me not to leave him again. The 2 weeks I was away were very traumatizing for him, and I'm not exposing him to that again. There is no telling how long it will take for his mother to stabilize enough to be a good parent for him again. If I divorce now, maybe she'd never recover. Even if I divorce her, I will still have the pain. I will still have the scars. I will bring that into any new relationship. I think that would greatly reduce the chances of such relationships being successful, isn't it? Just as well that I am with her while I try to heal. At least she will know why I'm acting like this and understand why I'm struggling. If I leave her, what is really waiting for me out there? Single women my age seem to be either divorced for good reasons or they are so ravaged by baby rabies they are not really considering if the person they choose is a good long-term partner for them. They seem very willing to play a role just to get into a relationship that cannot last long-term. I think it seems to me there is a high risk of a string of relationships that are doomed to begin with because one party is desperate, and I am broken. Dating strangers and random hookups doesn't really appeal to me. Also, how long would it take me to find someone that understands me as well as my wife? She is the only person in my entire life that I felt actually really gets me, and it took a long time to get to that point. Isn't that something I could use in my own healing? Would I ever be able to find someone again that could do that? How long would that take? There is no guarantee that a new partner wouldn't cheat as well, given the circumstances. I actually think that the odds of my wife cheating again are lower than a new partner. My son also needs his mother, and she needs to heal before she can step back into that role. Will she heal faster and better if I divorce her? Or will she heal better if we try to reconcile? I don't know. It's driving me nuts. How can I know she is safe to be around for my son if I'm not there with him? When it comes to my own healing, would I be better off alone or with her? Based upon what I have learned here, it seems those that choose to jump to divorce don't heal very well. It looks like the best outcome, as far as healing is concerned, is when the wayward actively contributes to the healing over a 3 to 5 year time period minimum. I don't know if she is even capable of that at the moment, to be honest. So here I am terribly conflicted. I have a million questions in my head and basically zero answers. I still struggle with the two extremes, reconciliation or divorce, and everything in between. I can't deny that I still love my wife. It turns out my bond to her isn't that easily broken. I really don't want to love her. The prideful side of me wants me to hate her, but I just can't lie to myself. I still love her deeply. And even though I fantasized about her getting hurt as badly as me the first few weeks, I don't want to hurt her or anyone. It wouldn't help me at all. Either way, I see a long, painful road ahead of us. I hope I have the strength to stay the course and be patient enough to make sure I make the right choices for my family and me. The only thing I've been able to decide is that if I land on offering R, it will not just be given. I will need to see some effort. I will not offer R until I'm absolutely sure we are two people 100% committed to that path. Also, if we do R, she will basically be a prisoner on probation. I don't want to be that guy, but what choice do I have if I feel I can't trust her? Either way, we will need a lot of therapy. Maybe she doesn't even want to R. I just don't know. Not being able to talk to her is starting to become a real burden for me. It's stressing me out. I feel I really need to talk to her. If anyone has any good suggestions for these conversations, I'm all ears. Again, thank you all. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. The cops knocked on my door and informed me that I fathered a daughter 15 years ago that I never knew about. Her mom is in jail for life, and I have no idea what to do. Hey everyone, when I, 32M, was a teenager, I dated a girl, Kay. One day, Kay broke up with me out of the blue, with no explanation. Fast forward 15-ish years later, the police showed up at my apartment. Long story short, Kay was pregnant with my kid 15 years ago. She got charged with a bunch of drug charges, and when they asked if her daughter could go to any family, she said I was the deadbeat. Well, after a paternity test, I do have a 15-year-old daughter with Kay. So, my daughter is going to come live with me today. I'm not a dad. I don't have kids or a significant other, just dogs. So I'm pretty clueless when it comes to being a dad or taking care of a kid, especially one who's a teenager. After talking with her social worker, she says Kay was neglectful to my daughter and isn't going to be used to being taken care of or having structure, which will be a big adjustment for her. The social worker says I need to be patient with her and just show her love and support, even if she doesn't want it. I have a room all ready for her in my apartment. It is pretty basic because I didn't want to overwhelm her. So yeah, she's coming today. Just hoping for some support, maybe some tips. Update a few days later. I, 32, posted on Friday that my daughter, 15, was coming to live with me, who I had no idea about until her mother went to jail on a bunch of drug charges. It has been a big adjustment for both my daughter and myself. I told her when I first picked her up that I know this is very new for both of us. So I know it's going to take some time to adjust. She has been through a lot. From what I can tell, she's very underweight and not used to constantly having meals. I put a snack bin in her room so she hopefully doesn't feel the need to hide food, at least stuff that isn't supposed to be left out. I told her she could get food from the kitchen whenever she wanted, but that seemed to overwhelm her, so it's now a snack bin. I also have breakfast and dinner, lunch on weekends at a consistent time so she just knows a meal is going to happen. She also has nightmares and screams. Of course, she hasn't told me what they're about. I don't expect her to yet, but whatever it was traumatic for her. So I'm in the process of finding a therapist for her. For some more positive things, I got her to open up enough to find out some things about her. Firstly, she loves my dogs. We took them on a walk together. She's smart, loves to read, and she likes to play basketball. I of course told her some stuff about me. She's pretty quiet and reserved. I expected her to not be really open with me, considering I am a stranger to her. But things so far aren't too bad. Going relatively well. Update 2. So, probably a lot of you guys saw the post about me, M32. Recently finding out about my 15-year-old daughter and getting custody of her. Well, things have been going pretty good so far. Today she was sitting in the kitchen doing homework, and once she finished, she started playing with my dogs but left a few papers out after putting the rest away. I asked what those are. She said, "Oh, just some tests I had this week." I asked if I could see them. She said sure. She had gotten A's on 3 tests: chemistry, history, and geometry, after being at the school for less than 2 weeks. I was honestly very impressed, not because I don't think she's not smart, but because she just started at a new school and is having big life adjustments. I told her that was amazing and ended up going on about how at her age I didn't care about the school aspect of school, just cared about sports and my friends. She said, "I enjoy learning and reading. It helps me get away from life." Then it hit me. It was her way of escaping from the assumingly not good life with her mom and focusing her mind on something else, like learning and reading. It honestly makes me really sad to think about. Update 3. I am 32. Have been posting on here kind of a lot recently. Basically, I recently not only found out but also got custody of my 15-year-old daughter. Even though I don't know a lot, just based on speculation, her mom wasn't a good mother, and the poor girl has been through a lot. Earlier we were out to eat because I didn't feel like cooking, and I found out my daughter never had tacos, so we went out for tacos. We were having a very casual conversation until a mother with her 2 young daughters, I would say both girls under 10, came in. You could just tell the girls were having fun with their mom, and all 3 just clearly loved each other. Well, my daughter got quiet and kept staring at them. I didn't want to pry, so I kept quiet. She didn't say anything until randomly on the drive home. She said, "Sometimes it's hard seeing girls have a good relationship with their mom. I get jealous because my mom and I never did." Then she started crying and let me know she wanted to be left alone the rest of the night. It was hard seeing her cry and upset. It is also difficult to know, even though I'm now around in my daughter's life and I'm trying to be a good parent, she still spent the first 15 years of her life not having a good relationship with her mom, and I can't fix that. I wish I could, but I can't, which sucks because she didn't deserve to be neglected and possibly abused. I'm just in my feelings and really sad for my daughter. Update 4. I am 32. Have shared here about my getting full custody of my daughter, 15, who I did not know about. It has been a little over 2 months. She gives me a hard time. Honestly, I haven't yelled at her or anything like that. I understand she's been through it. We're both in therapy to help. Well, this whole week she has been really rude and arguing with me. It has been very rough. During one of the arguments, she ended up telling me some very personal stuff. I'm not going to share, but I will say she had a very rough start to life. I was trying my best to comfort her. She seemed like she was having a panic attack. We were just sitting in silence, and she said, You know you're pretty good at the whole dad thing for being a newbie." I laughed and said thank you and told her being her dad had been enjoyable. It was silent for a while, but then she said, "Thanks, Dad. That made my whole year." To be honest, been having a bit of happy tears. Update 5. I am 32. Have shared quite a few posts on here about finding out I had a teen daughter with an ex of mine. My daughter was also neglected and both physically and mentally abused by her mother. After drug charges, she came to live with me. Things have been going well. She even once referred to me as Dad. We still have tough days, but therapy has helped her a lot. And I'm even in therapy now to help with this big life adjustment. A little over a month ago, my daughter started feeling fatigued, was losing weight. That sadly took a while for her to gain, and was pale and just seemed unwell. I was worried and started taking her to the doctors. They were convinced it was just a bad cold that was going around, but it lasted way longer than any cold should, so I took her to other doctors. One recently decided to run some tests. I honestly didn't know what would be wrong with her. At certain points, I figured I was a new dad and just over-worrying about my daughter. Today we found out she has leukemia. This poor girl has had such a tough life already. And now this. I am pissed. I am upset. I am terrified. I've had family members go through chemo, so I know it's no easy task and that'll be mentally hard on both of us. Extremely physically hard on my poor girl. She hasn't said much since we found out earlier this morning. I would just like you guys to send good vibes and messages and possibly advice if you have any. Update 6. I have shared a lot here about my daughter, F15. I didn't know about her until the police came to my door wondering if I could take her in. Her mother, my ex, was neglectful mentally and sometimes physically abusive towards my daughter. I was just working on building a relationship with her, and we were starting to get close. A little over a month ago, she got diagnosed with cancer, leukemia specifically. Life has not been fair at all to this poor girl. She has been doing inpatient chemo for almost a month now. That's been rough. She's either quiet or verbally attacking me and taking her anger out on me. I haven't said much about that. I understand she's angry. I mean, she's only 15, a sophomore in high school, and has been through so much. She's been doing virtual therapy sessions with her therapist and talking to people at the hospital as well. She's coming home in a few days. She will hopefully be able to relax in her bed. She gets to see my dogs, which she loves dearly. It's been mentally draining for both of us. Mostly her. I know she lost most of the weight she was able to gain living with me. She was extremely underweight when she came to live with me. Even with anti-nausea meds, she just doesn't have an appetite right now. Chemo has made reading harder, and she refuses to listen to audiobooks. So she's grumpy about not reading since it's something that has always brought her comfort. It's just clear she's upset and frustrated, which is understandable and why I let her kind of get upset with me. But I do let her know that what she says hurts me. But I know she's a teenager who has been hurt her whole life and now going through something extremely difficult. Update 7. Even hi everyone. This is with permission from her. I'm posting a picture of my daughter coming home from a month of inpatient chemo. I'm the one who posts on here a lot about how I got my daughter who I didn't know about. My last post was about dealing with her new cancer diagnosis. She was super happy to be home, be able to lay/sleep in her own bed, see our dogs. I have been reading to her. We started the Divergent book series, which is actually really good. I've never read them before. Since being home, she has been in a better mood compared to being in the hospital, but chemo/cancer has been still so mentally difficult on her. It's also been hard on me. Not in the same way, of course, but just because I love her and hate seeing her go through this, especially after everything she's been through. She also tends to take her frustration out on me verbally, which is okay. I know this is hard on her. She's only 15 and has been through a lot. Anyway, just wanted to give a bit of an update on everything. Update 8. Hi everyone. It's been a while. I have shared many posts about my 15-year-old daughter, who I didn't know existed until 8 months ago. It has been challenging, especially with her getting diagnosed with cancer, leukemia. Well, she has been so strong during this fight against leukemia. I am beyond proud of her. She is such a strong young lady who has gone through so much throughout her life. Well, tomorrow starts a whole new chapter for my daughter. She's getting a stem cell transplant. It won't be easy, but if it goes well, This is going to do her so much good, and my daughter will finally be able to live the life she deserves. So today she is getting spoiled by me and my whole family because for a while things are going to be really difficult for her. So please send good vibes and thoughts our way, and I also want to thank everyone for all the love and support we have gotten on here. Now on to the next story. Story 3. My boyfriend cheated, and I caught him planning to move out. He's not home, but I'm unsure whether to take our dog with me or leave him behind. My boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. About 2 years ago, when Fiona hit, I moved in with him as we both lost our respective jobs and needed to save on gas and utilities. Since then, I have found a new office job and my boyfriend takes some odd jobs online, but he basically stays at home most of the time. My boyfriend has always been on the controlling side. He wanted me to cut all my male friends from my life. Hindsight is 20/20, I know, but in his defense, he also cut all contact with women, or at least to my knowledge. My boyfriend has always been very adamant that he doesn't condone cheating, and even if someone else in his life was a cheater, he would cut them out of his life. The relationship has had its ups and downs. We have had a fair share of arguments, and a few months ago we hit a rough patch, but recently things were looking okay, or so I thought. My boyfriend has become quite guarded with his phone lately, including hiding it if I look over his shoulder. He has never done this before, and it's very unlike him. I am very open with my personal tech items. He's always welcome to look through my phone and laptop because I have nothing to hide. We even know each other's phone passwords. My gut feeling kept telling me that something was wrong, so when I got up for work this morning while he was still sleeping, I admit I shouldn't have done what I did. I took his phone from the nightstand and checked out his conversations. My boyfriend has been chatting with a girl he met online, 25F. I only skimmed through the last few messages, as I didn't want him to wake up and catch me snooping, but they have been texting back and forth every day while I was at work and sending each other nudes. I was so shook and disgusted. I don't know when it all started, but I assume it's been at least a month, because that's when I first noticed the suspicious phone guarding behavior. Honestly, no matter how much I look for a solution, there's no coming back from this. I know I have to leave. I didn't confront him yet because I don't want him to try and persuade me to stay or spin it that it's my fault. I also don't believe in closure, so there's really no use in telling him that I know. Here's where I need advice. I have a place to move to, and I have to move all my stuff. I don't want him to damage my stuff or something. He has a history of throwing my possessions when angry, so I'll have people come help me move when he's not in the house. We have separate finances, so that's not an issue. The problem is we have a dog. I adopted him with his approval when I moved in with him. I'm saying it's technically my dog since I do 90% of the dog activities. He rarely takes him out, and I buy all the dog toys and dog food. Basically, he's the fun parent that gets only the pets and hugs. I know he loves the dog, and the dog loves him, but I don't think he'd be able to take care of him and get up at 6 a.m. to walk him. My baby is also too used to the house and us, and he'll probably be stressed out if I move him. Should I take the dog with me without telling my soon-to-be ex? Or should I leave the dog with him? Another thing I need advice for is, should I leave him a note or a message with any explanation? Update 1. So will now stand for significant other, meaning my boyfriend. A few people asked for an update. It will be a lengthy one, so brace yourselves. One particular comment stuck out to me. That my pet doesn't know what's best for them and they could roll in literal shit and be happy, which really solidified my decision. As a preface, I'd like to apologize. I was paranoid that I could be found out, so I altered a couple of details in the original, one of which was that we owned a cat, not a dog. However, I was still doing 90% of the caring for the cat. On to the update. After reading all the comments and making the decision to take the cat, I called my best friend, her boyfriend, and my parents to tell them I'm breaking up and discuss logistics. I also told them not to mention anything in writing, on the off chance that So sees the messages. It took me quite some time to put everything in motion, 3 weeks to be precise, in which time I was doing my best to act like everything was okay while secretly moving some of my stuff to my parents' place to ease the final load. Finally, last Friday morning, my best friend, her boyfriend, and my dad came. We loaded up everything on my father's truck and left. The whole ordeal took 1.5 hours. I was honestly amazed how much stuff I managed to accumulate in just 2 years. I took everything that I paid for out of my pocket, including a monitor and a headset that I lent him due to his equipment breaking and he never bought new ones. The only thing I left was a queen-sized bed I bought shortly after moving in. I also made sure to log into SO's World of Warcraft account to cancel his subscription, which was paid for by my bank account. I left a note on his desk that basically said, "Do not panic. You have not been robbed. I just took all my stuff and left. I'm taking the cat with me because I don't trust you to take care of her properly. Do not call me. My friends and family have already had the talk, so there's nothing else to say. Have a nice life. Your ex." I didn't tell him I know about the cheating because, at this point, it was irrelevant. In retrospect, it was just the last straw on top of many other problems, but hindsight is always 20/20. I blocked his number and never looked back. Sure enough, he messaged me on WhatsApp as soon as he came back to the empty flat. The gist of the messages was that we could have done it the civil way, and why did I take the cat? This way, we raised her together and he loved her. He also tried to call 3 times but gave up soon after. I then blocked him on WhatsApp as well. The next few days were pretty uneventful. Yesterday, he showed up at my workplace unannounced. I was pretty annoyed but didn't want to make a scene in front of my colleagues. So I took a break and went out with him to the park across the street. Knowing him, he wouldn't just leave me alone. He said he wanted closure and that I owed it to him after all these years. The conversation was mostly boring, so I'll highlight the important details. He said he wanted my monitor back and he's willing to pay for it or trade me his new one, which is better but wasn't the same curve that he was used to. I told him that I like my monitor and tough luck. The best part, as he went out to buy a new monitor, set it up to play WoW, but realized that I also took the headset. He then asked his mother to buy him one, and she bought headphones without a mic. Pity. He asked to have the cat back. He offered me money, offered me all his crypto savings, and even offered me 60k gold in WoW. I told him some things can't be bought with money. He then asked to be a co-parent, and when I said no to that too, he asked to at least say goodbye to her in person, also denied. I brought up that I'm the cat's primary caregiver, and he can't even clean her shit. He replied he could when push comes to shove, but didn't since I was doing those things anyway, despite him being in the flat almost 24/7. I also pointed out that if he really loved the cat that much, he'd want the best for her and to be with the one who takes care of her instead of wanting to keep her for selfish reasons. He kind of agreed on that. The most baffling part, he offered to pay me to go grocery shopping together. We used to do that all the time when we were together. I pointed him to a couple of sites where he can buy groceries and have them delivered. He said it was too much work. I told him to adjust and evolve. He also apologized one too many times for hurting me, to which I replied every time, I wasn't hurt. I was just disgusted and cringed at the conversations I read, to which he got offended and mumbled that it was private. Not once did he mention the side chick. Even then, he didn't have the balls to admit to the affair. In their messages, there was a recurring joke that if he comes to the hotel where she works, they'd have to sex in the janitor's room. I brought her up a couple of times, told him I wished them both the very best, and since I left him the bed, he doesn't have to worry about having sex in the janitor's room anymore. He asked to be friends multiple times. I told him also multiple times he betrayed me and he's a pathological liar, and I don't want to be friends with a dishonest person. He legit couldn't comprehend how his dishonesty impacts a potential friendship. He said he wanted to tell me he wasn't committed to me anymore but couldn't bring himself to do that. I pointed out the hypocrisy of him blowing up at me for platonically talking to male friends online, but he cheats the moment a semi-attractive woman comes his way. He said that a woman cheating on a man is the greatest sin, but a man cheating on a woman is not so severe. What the actual hell? The rest of the conversation was him trying to play buddy-buddy and talk to me about his life, and me reminding him that I'm not interested in his life and that he's a closed chapter to me. After what seemed to be eternity, we said our hopefully final goodbyes, and I went back to work. In conclusion, for the past week since I left, I felt like a huge load dropped off my shoulders. I have all the time in the world. I'm working on myself. I'm reconnecting with people I haven't talked to in years. I'm trying to live my best life, and I don't regret anything. There were good times. There were bad times. It was a valuable experience and a lesson learned. What to look for in a partner and, more importantly, what not to overlook. Huge thanks to Eve Rewind that commented on my post. You really gave me the push I needed to make what I hope is the right decision. I was contemplating whether to write this last update or not. A bunch of things have happened since I last posted, and eventually, I figured we are all more or less people who laugh at their own farts and enjoy the occasional justice boner, so I decided y'all might appreciate how karma has caught up with X. Disclaimer and some background. I left out a lot of information in the original post and altered a lot of detail to make sure X does not find the post and connect the dots. Our real ages are 28 him, 33, me, and 34, side chick. X and I were together for almost 7 years, not 4. X had a chronic disease, nothing fatal, very manageable, and a lot of people with the condition can work. He was, of course, using it as an excuse not to work, even online work, and mooch off me. We lived with his mother, who was supporting his narrative that he is too sick to work. X was abusive, first only verbally, but it progressed to physical abuse. I admitted most of this in the first post because I wanted an unbiased opinion on whether to take the cat or not, even though the cheating was the last nail in the coffin of our relationship. I was actually contemplating leaving him for almost a year before the actual fact, and on occasions where he ramped up the abuse, I will withhold giving examples for the time being because the topic might be traumatic for some readers. My last update ended with X coming to work to offer me pixel money for my cat. This was in August 2022. I vacated his flat at the end of July. I thought everything was said and done, and I would not hear from him again. Spoiler, I was wrong. Since the breakup, he has messaged me about every 3 months on Discord for various shit, like how he lost his best friend or asking for photos of the cat. I didn't block him on there in case either of us needed to exchange items we forgot at our respective places. Sometime in March, I found out by chance that he's still using my old League account. He has been banned on 3 different accounts for toxicity. I gave him the password while we were dating, but I did not think he would have the audacity to continue using it after we broke up. The kicker is all it would take would be to ask me to use it, and I would have no problems with it. It really rubbed me the wrong way that he could message me with his woes on 4 different occasions but conveniently forgot to mention that he is still playing on my account. I wondered for about a week whether to let it slide or to just change the password. Then he contacted me again about wanting to ask me something. I shot this down and reminded him that I explicitly told him not to contact me. He said okay. This lasted for a fortnight until he messaged me again, saying that he will ask his question regardless. I pointed out how I told him not to contact me and he could not respect even that, so he has learned nothing as he still does not give a shit about other people's boundaries. The question was, what did it feel like to be with a complete monster for 7 years? Why did you stay for so long? Apparently, the lad was going through some kind of epiphany phase. There were a lot of crocodile tear-laced explanations that followed. The gist of it was that he was doing some reflections, he realized he is a complete lunatic and needs help, and apologized for how he behaved. I also found out that he spent all his savings and disability money, including the crypto he offered me for the cat, so he could not take me up on the offer to buy my LOL account. Also, to nobody's surprise, his little affair did not work out. I did not ask for details, but what he said was, I think I finally met a person who is more sick and broken inside than me, which is quite an achievement. A few months prior to this revelation, a WoW friend from the side chick's country messaged me for context. We are all Europeans and play on the same servers. The friend knew my side of the story, and when he found out that the side chick is flying to my ex's country, he put 2 and 2 together. He told me he does not expect much from their relationship since a year ago the chick was dating a friend of his, broke his heart, and flew somewhere else for the next WoW guy that gave her attention. Knowing these facts and after what X said, I mentioned to him how it was ironic that he cried cheating if I was 5 minutes late after work but decided to involve himself with a woman who was practicing cheating as a sport. He agreed that it was quite ironic indeed and that he had to lay in the bed that he made, which was sort of mature on his part, I suppose. Also, did I mention he was too dumb to wire his own debit card to his WoW account? This is why he could not play anymore. Well, yeah, but I guess also because he lost his sugar mommy that was paying for it and failed to secure another. As for me, Kitty and I are thriving. I am active. I lost 12 kilograms since the breakup and I'm getting back in shape. Even though I lost the excess weight the moment I dumped X, I have reconnected with most of my friends and apologized for not contacting them very much in the past 7 years and explained why. They were very understanding and things have gone very much to how they were before. Now on to the next story. Story 4. I found out that my husband secretly gave our house to his mom after I spent years paying the mortgage. Now it's being auctioned off and we're getting divorced. I'm 38, female, married to my husband, Alex, 37, male, for 3 years. My married life has been going on pretty normal until yesterday, when I found something very suspicious in my husband's study room. I met my husband around 6 years ago. I was new to the city then with a new job. Alex was already settled here, living with 2 of his brothers in a rented condo. His family ran a grocery store in the suburb. We dated for a few years, during which he bought the house and paid for the down payment. It was actually due to his house plans that our wedding plans got delayed. Alex wanted to have a house before getting married. He had a thing about owning a house. But soon after the marriage, he lost his job and was struggling to pay the mortgage. I covered it for a few months until he got a new job, but his new job didn't pay him enough to keep everything afloat, so we got into an agreement that I would pay the mortgage and he would add me to the deed as the co-owner. It looked like a fair deal to me. The new job in the city was paying me well, and after working here for 2 years, I had saved enough to buy a property. So what better deal than this? So for the last 3 years after marriage, I've been paying the house mortgage, and it is only 7 months left for the mortgage. Yesterday, I was at home alone and, out of boredom, decided to clean the house. I usually don't enter his study room because he doesn't like his stuff to be moved, but I don't know what happened to me this time that I cleaned the study. While cleaning one of the bookshelves, I stumbled on an envelope with the name of the housing society we were living in. When I opened it, I found it to be an updated house deed. I thought Alex had updated it to add me as the co-owner, but no, he had changed the ownership of the house to his mom. Yes, the house for which I was paying the mortgage for the last 3 years. He had given it to his mom, and he didn't even inform me. I checked the date of the document and found it to be months ago, so he had deliberately not told me about this. He was hiding this since then. My mind has been racing with several possible stories behind this. I couldn't think of any good reason why he would do that. It looks purely evil, and now I feel I've been married to a stranger. I'm yet to confront him regarding this. Rather, I don't want to confront him without digging deep into the matter. I took pictures of those papers to get them checked with my lawyer, and until I get the details from him, I'm going to put on this pretentious mask in the same way he has been doing it for years. Update 1. Hello all. I got the details from my lawyer friend regarding the house deed, and it came out that this was the most recent one indeed. Alex has transferred the ownership to his mom. Since there are a few months of the mortgage left, the deed talked about the ownership post the mortgage. I felt so betrayed. I was working my ass off, making all those big and small sacrifices to pay the mortgage so that he could get rid of the EMI, and then he gave the house to his mom, and I have no clue about it. I wanted to have a full-blown confrontation with him right away, but he wasn't in town. A few months back, Alex was offered a new expansion project of setting up a new team in the adjacent city, so he is mostly out of town and visits home monthly or twice a month. I wanted to have a direct conversation instead of a phone call, and gladly I waited, because while waiting for him I planned my revenge. Instead of just letting it go with an argument, actually I didn't plan the revenge intentionally, but it happened eventually. A week later, after discovering that paper, I got a text from Alex reminding me about paying the mortgage. That text made my blood boil, and at that moment I instantly decided not to pay for any further EMIs. That's when I decided to avenge my betrayal. I went to the bank and changed the contact details from Alex's number and email ID to mine, so that he doesn't get the payment reminders and calls. Alex had to confirm that change. I told him that I wanted this to be changed so that I get the payment intimation. He was fine with it. Once that was done, I turned a deaf ear to their payment reminders and calls. I have already defaulted for 3 months, and I got a message from the bank that if I don't pay for another couple of months, the house will be auctioned. Good for me, but there is more to it. I had to find out why Alex did so. Brief context about Alex and his family. So Alex's family is from down south. Don't want to name the place to avoid unnecessary conflicts in the comments. They were never able to own a house because his dad had to start his living from scratch. Alex had 4 siblings, and it was difficult for them to own a house while providing for a family of 7. While we were dating, Alex told me that he always wanted to own a house before starting a family. Actually, this was an inherent dream of his parents, but since they couldn't afford one, Alex wanted to make sure that his children grew up in their own home, which they call an ancestral house. I never suspected anything shady. I understand owning a house holds sentimental value, apart from a sense of security and stuff like that. It could also be possible that he wanted to have it for his parents and hid his intentions from me because I would disapprove. I mean, obviously anyone would disapprove of that. I understand the sentiment and emotional connection to do something for your parents which they have been longing for years, which they couldn't afford. With due respect to that, we cannot ignore that it should be from his money and not mine. He cannot do this keeping me in the dark. Anyways, it is needless to say that our married life went for a toss. We both were playing mind games as a couple. We were never very cheesy and mushy. Sometimes I used to initiate romantic date nights, but now I stopped doing it, and Alex never complained about it. Also, he was living in a different city for the project and occasionally came home, making everything so much better for me. I'll make an update if anything progresses. Update 2. Hello all. Thanks for all the suggestions. Some of you commented asking me to find the reason behind his move instead of assuming things and ruining everything. Even my lawyer friend suggested so. I thought about it and decided to dig into the matter. Initially, I tried to find out the truth myself, but after brainstorming a lot, I still was not able to figure out anything. Yes, I was anticipating an angle of affairs as well. I tried checking his phone when he came home, but it was clean. Instead of spending days and nights scratching my head, I hired a PI on Alex. It was expensive, but it was worth it to get rid of the uncertainty I was going through. It took almost a month for the PI to get me all the details. Apart from the already known information like the ownership of the house and family history of Alex, there was one thing that came out, and it was about Alex's ex, Jay. She was not a mere ex, but his fiancée. They were engaged a month before the wedding. Something happened, and their relationship turned hostile. It happened a year ago before I met Alex, so there was no cheating involved. The concerning part was Alex never told me about this. This was not just a fling that would have slipped his mind. They were about to get married. The agency gave me the details of that woman. I looked up about her on social media and saw that she was quite well off. Her father was a real estate businessman. A few days later, I showed up at her office. She was married. Just showing up at her house to talk about her ex-fiancé didn't sound decent. I introduced myself as Alex's wife and told her it was something important. She agreed to talk. I asked her about the reason for their breakup. She was reluctant to talk about her personal life. She seemed like a genuine person to me, and I had no option but to spill the beans first to get the information. I told her about the house stuff and she smiled. She was like, "Oh, finally he was successful in trapping someone for the house." Then she put down her guard and told me everything. She met Alex at a common friend's party, and they hit it off. They dated for a year, in which Alex expressed his desire to own a house. Felt like a déjà vu moment for me. Her father was into real estate, so she took his help to get some good property deals for Alex, but he kept rejecting one after another, saying it was beyond his budget. She was already living in a house gifted by her father, so Alex moved in with her instead of buying his own. They got engaged, but soon after that, Alex pestered her for transferring the house to his name. She tried to convince him that it didn't matter who owned it since they were getting married, but Alex used his sob story to manipulate her into giving the house to him. His sob story was how his parents were never able to afford their own house and how he always wished to have a property to his name. She was almost convinced to give him that sentimental satisfaction, but her father intervened and disapproved of Alex's request. Alex tried to manipulate him too, and he agreed to let Alex co-own the house but was also asked to sign a prenup which said that if there was a divorce the house would go to her, and under no circumstances could Alex sell it or make any changes in the ownership of the house. Alex refused to sign the prenup, and they eventually called it quits. When I narrated my story of how I ended up paying for the mortgage, she smiled and affirmed that it was all an act to trap me into this. She also told me that Alex's parents are very conservative people, and they were allowing him to marry her only because of her wealth. In Jay's case, when this matter was discussed, my MIL was very aggressive in pushing her to agree to Alex's terms, and in one of the arguments she admitted that she doesn't like modern girls of our ethnicity because we are too dominating. It sounded quite believable because I was never able to get along with Alex's family. Rather, we never got to spend a lot of time together. Alex kept me aside, saying his family is conservative and he doesn't want to ruin my peace by letting them meddle in our life. Jay said that it was to keep me away from suspecting anything fishy. My MIL was a cold person. That's true, and Alex never left me alone with her. I thought he was protective of me, but he was protecting himself and his family. I asked Jay if it's possible that Alex is changed now. She said she highly doubts it. She told me up front that once Alex got the house, he would divorce me and marry someone of his own community who was more humble and submissive. I wonder why he didn't marry someone of his choice in the first place. Jay said that the woman of his choice couldn't afford a house to give to Alex. That sounded outrageous, but it does make sense now. I wasn't thinking about the divorce until now, or maybe it was there at the back of my head and I was not acknowledging it. Let's see how it goes, but with the information I got from Jay, I'm pretty sure that Alex is not the person he's been acting all this while. P.S. For people who still think I'm evil and letting go of the house without any confrontation with Alex, I'm not going to justify myself because I know what I'm doing is right at this moment. He tricked me into this and now he's going to pay for it. Even if he does not intend to divorce me, he still has concealed so much crucial information from me which hints at his malicious intentions. I've been betrayed badly, and now I don't care about his emotions at all. Update 3. I've been longing to make this update. The house is finally up for auction. I defaulted on the loan for 6 months and didn't respond to any of the payment calls. I got an email from the bank that they are sending a formal letter of intimation with the final deadline to pay the mortgage. Alex was in the city at that time, but I ensured that the letter didn't reach him. I was tracking it closely, and as soon as it was dropped in my mailbox, I picked it up and destroyed it. Evil, yeah. Then last month, bank officials showed up at the house telling me the outcome of defaulting further. They informed me that if I didn't pay within the next 30 days, the house would be put up for auction. I nodded that I would try, but I'm okay to opt in for the auction if I fail. Now that I have breached the timeline too, the house is finally up for auction. Also, one more thing. Apart from losing the house, Alex is going to suffer severely on his credit score. The loan was in his name, so officially he's a defaulter, not me. When the bank officials visited the house, they cautioned me that it takes years for a loan defaulter to get green on their credit score. Who cares? Good for my man. I received an intimation from the bank to be present for the auction. The owner of the house has to sign the final papers to hand over the possession, so basically the intimation was for my husband because the loan was in his name. Since he has now changed the ownership to his mother, I'm not sure how this is going to work. Edit to add. My lawyer friend clarified that the house is the bank's asset until the mortgage is covered. Once it's over, it would be handed over to Alex, and then he can transfer it to anyone he wants. So the document I found in his study was basically a sort of thing which was like the house would go to my MIL after the mortgage was over. Any which way, he faltered on the promise he made to me that he would add me as the co-owner of the house. After meeting Jay, I'm pretty sure of his malicious intentions. My gut feeling is that he is betraying me. Update 4. The house is sold, but after a lot of drama. I'm glad I didn't get manipulated by Alex and his pretentious family. First of all, I had no clue how the auction procedure worked. I thought it would be like a normal one where all the bidders would place their quotations and the highest bidder gets it, and then they move into the house and we move out. No, it doesn't work like that. The bank had put up the house for sale at a price that would cover their mortgage amount plus a premium interest rate on the principal amount. Meanwhile, we were given an eviction notice. I rented a house for myself when the notice came, so I shipped all the furniture and house decor with me. Only the stuff that particularly belonged to Alex, like his clothes and accessories, I left in the garage. The bank officials told me that whenever they got a suitable buyer they would call, and Alex had to sign the final paper to hand over the house. I was waiting for the house to be sold first before breaking this news to Alex, but he showed up unexpectedly. He was shocked to find the house locked and his stuff lying on the front porch. He called me asking where I was. I told him I was at work. He was yelling at me as to why his stuff was scattered outside. I told him that the house was no longer his and the bank had seized it. He lost his mind. I was not able to see his expression on the phone call, but I'm sure he would have been flustered, red with anger, and I was enjoying it. He bombarded me with all sorts of questions. How, why, when? I said I was at work and I needed to hang up, and if he needed any further details he could meet me at a cafe outside my office in the evening. My God. I'll tell you, he was at my office within an hour, but I didn't meet him until I wrapped up my day. He was just so furious to see me. He understood that I was messing around with him. He was like, "What did you do?" Before I revealed my cards, I wanted to see how far he could go. I said I defaulted on the loan because I had other commitments. He was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" I said I was afraid and I had no clue that the house would be seized in case of the default. Maybe if we were not in a public place he would have banged my head against the wall. I was cracking up from inside on seeing him like that. He went on and on saying how precious that house was to him. It was his dream and I had shattered it. He blurted out, "What's the point of marrying someone outside his community, against his parents, when he couldn't gain anything out of it?" It was shocking for me, but I didn't lose my resolve. When he was done venting out and abusing me, I gave him the paper I found in his study. He stood silent. He was like, "I can explain." He said that his parents had saved lifelong, and they paid for the down payment of the house, so for their happiness he had just named them as an heir to the house. He was like, "My parents are already in their 70s and would die before us, so they would never be able to inherit the house. It would be ours always." That was such a dumb thing to say. I asked him why he hid that information, why he didn't make me the co-owner of the house as he had promised, and most importantly, why he hid his past with Jay. He was shocked to hear her name. He was like, "Oh, that manipulated you." I said that the house was still not sold to others. If he was so keen about it, he could always pay the mortgage money and get it back from the bank. He said he didn't have that much money and pleaded with me to do something about it. I refused. He threatened me with a divorce and a fraud case of defaulting on the loan. I said, "Go ahead, but be ready to pay the price for that." And yes, the money which I had paid for the house mortgage for the last 3 years. The same day, his mom called me and requested a meeting. That lady had never spoken to me in a complete sentence until that day, and now she was all so sweet. I went. It was about the same request of saving the house. I said, "How does it matter to you because it was not your house?" She was lost for words and could not hide her true self. She turned bitter and said, "That's why I don't like girls of this country. They are big-mouthed like you and use their brains a lot more than required. My son is going to divorce you and marry the girl in our community. Then you'll understand." I laughed at her face and said, "It's not the 1950s that you could threaten me with a divorce and get away." The same evening, I called up my lawyer friend and asked her to proceed with the divorce papers. I claimed the money I paid for the house and the compensation. I'm not sure if he would be able to bear that, but I don't care. People like Alex who prey upon others' emotions for their own benefit need to pay the price. When he got the papers, he called and pleaded with me to reconsider the divorce terms as he could not pay that huge amount and that his parents had to sell off their grocery store to settle the amount. I said I didn't care and hung up. I'll make an update after the divorce is done. Until then, I'm living my life freely, and I've already gotten over this man in the last 7 months, so yeah, I'm cool about the whole separation thing. We also don't have a kid, which makes all of it better. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My wife's PTSD and lack of libido have caused a dead bedroom for the past 4 years, and now she refuses to have a few hours alone to try. I'm a 28-year-old man, and my wife is 29. Our daughter will be 7 months old in September. We've been together for almost 5 years, and we'll be celebrating our 2nd wedding anniversary soon. We live in a place surrounded by family, but they're all at least 2+ hours away. We both work full-time, so our daughter goes to daycare. We have 3 cats, and while we make ends meet, we save a bit for small adventures or emergencies. My wife has PTSD from giving birth. She's scared that having sex might lead to complications or another pregnancy. Her pregnancy was high risk, but thankfully, both she and our baby are healthy. However, our bedroom life has been a struggle for 4 years. When we first started dating, we had sex 3 to 6 times a week. I felt better than ever, physically and mentally, but then something changed. My wife had an issue during sex once, and although her OB assured us it was temporary, things never went back to normal. She switched medications for birth control, ADHD, and depression, and her libido vanished. Note: I do not remember exactly what the name of the complication was. There were a couple of complications or excuses throughout 4 years. At one point, she had back surgery. At another point, she had vaginal surgery, which she fully recovered from in 3 weeks. And at another point, she changed her medications again. We got through all of it together, but there was still a lack of sexual intimacy all these years, outside of recovery periods. She'd have a random excuse as to why she's not in the mood. At the end of the day, it was simple. Her libido appeared to have vanished. Note: my wife has never gotten a test for this nor seems to have any interest in doing so. For the longest time, my wife blamed her new birth control but refused to change it. We discussed our sex life with a marriage counselor, and my wife kept saying, once we get married, I can get off birth control and my drive should come back. I asked for a couple of months of frequent sex before trying for a baby, but she always laughed or rolled her eyes. Our counselor suggested I masturbate, but it didn't help much. After we got married, we had sex twice in the 2 weeks we were off with just the two of us. At one point, we were stuck in a hotel during our honeymoon due to a hurricane, but she wasn't in the mood. I felt incredibly insecure. She eventually got off birth control and our sex life improved slightly. We had sex once a month. When I asked if we could try something to boost her libido, she refused. Finally, she agreed to talk to her doctors. She changed her depression medication, and that's when her drive started coming back. We had sex about 3 times in a single month before we found out she was pregnant. It was July 2023. We were both very excited and happy to finally be having a baby. We jumped on top of each other, and it felt like we were going to have sex again. But out of nowhere, my wife rejected me, gave no reason or explanation. During her pregnancy, we had sex 3 times. Once on our anniversary in September 2023 and twice in November 2023. Since then, we haven't had sex. Not once. There were several times she teased me as if we were going to, but never did. It's been 8 long months now with no changes, and it'll be 10 months when we reach our wedding anniversary in September. Last weekend, we were on a road trip, listening to the Two Hot Takes podcast. There was a story about a husband with a dead bedroom for 3 years. My wife noticed I was getting depressed and put her hand on my shoulder. After the story, she assured me she loved me but needed time to recover from her PTSD. I was frustrated as I know our bedroom has been dead for way longer than that. I had brought up that I wanted us to go to counseling, but she almost immediately changed the subject. A few days later, I brought up our wedding anniversary. I was hoping that we'd possibly be able to have sex if she consented to it. My thought was of staying in a hotel room with just the two of us. She just says, maybe, but we have our daughter now. I asked about having one of our mothers babysit for a weekend. She said no, that's too long to be without her. I asked about a night. She said no, she doesn't want to sleep without her in the room. Yet, we have before, but we were in the house and one of our mothers had her with them. I then asked if we just have a few hours by ourselves in the evening when we leave to go back home to our daughter and we just have a few hours in a hotel. She again said no. I replied, I just want to be able to be intimate with you again. I miss you so much, and I want to be close to you. I'm here for you, and I know you're going through a lot and have PTSD, but I'm trying my best to try and make this work. My wife just replies, I know. Then she will either walk away or change the subject. We've had a multitude of the same conversations in different ways for a couple of years. Every time we're sitting down alone and having a serious conversation, my wife acknowledges my feelings but rejects my suggestions and doesn't offer alternatives. She always says one of the following: the years of rejection are starting to get to me harder than the past 4 years. I have no intention of ever leaving my wife, as I love her so much, and she's my person. Sex is something that has proven to help both of our mental health when regulated, but now I'm not sure if things will ever be like they used to or even close. Am I the a-hole to ask for just a few hours for us to be alone to at least try to have sex on our anniversary? Update 1. The first is actually about the first complication that happened when we were dating for about 6 months. I did some digging at my old messages and remembered she had gotten a cut inside of her from my fingernail. We didn't notice it until we were having sex, and it wasn't big enough where it needed stitches. The medications were to prevent infection. Coincidentally, when she got the medications to prevent infection, my wife changed all her medications. They were starting to clash with each other, making her either have nausea, headaches, stomach pain, or she'd feel sadder than usual. Her psychiatrist helped her with her ADHD and depression medications, while her OB helped with her birth control. The mix of the three caused the symptoms, not the sex altercation. There were a few unfortunate times where I accidentally cut her, a tiny bit, but they all went away on their own and were very, very tiny. My wife told me it's fine, and she's content to keep going with my eczema. I've had an issue with being very itchy pretty much my whole life. This made my fingernails over time super sharp. I have to cut them frequently just to not accidentally cut myself. My nails chip every now and then, which also doesn't help. My wife has been very loving and understanding with this issue for me and has never judged me for it. Later on, the surgery she had was a small mass. At first, we thought it was cancer, but it was built-up tissue. We got it out, and the recovery period was 3 weeks. My wife initiated sex the second that ended. This was all before her back surgery. Nothing else alarming or concerning after that, and no surgeries on the inside again. Now, to her back surgery. She had surgery at L5-S1 spinal fusion. This caused chronic pains that come back if she does too much lifting or overexerts herself. I helped her through the entire process, from when her back started hurting, her surgery, and after. It was the first time she was having surgery in a hospital to where she needs to have anesthesia. She was very scared, but she brought it up to all her friends and family that she couldn't have done it without me. She was told she couldn't have sex for 6 weeks. Ironically, she kept asking for sex, and I had to tell her no. The doctor was very persistent in telling us not to, as it could mess with the spinal fusion, so I had to keep saying no. The second it was 6 weeks, she jumped on top of me. My wife had to change her medications a couple of times after this over a couple of years. She had told me she's trying to fix 3 things: being able to focus, have a higher sex drive, and be less depressed. There were ups and downs, and sometimes our bedroom was dead for months, while others not. Nothing was consistent, which neither of us liked. Getting updates didn't always happen. But she'd express that she wants to have sex but has no drive. My intrusive thoughts interpret that as she doesn't want me. I'd like to answer one more question before the update. Divorce isn't an option because I never want to spend the rest of my life without her. The teasing bothers me. Yes, the lack of sex for months bothers me. Yes, but nothing would hurt me more than to be without her. I take her out to dinner. I help whenever I can around the house. I'm always there for her and my daughter, and we cuddle at least 5 times a day, if not more. When it comes to sex, it does make this huge positive impact on our life and in our marriage. I will do whatever it takes to be with my wife and daughter for the rest of my life. Now, on to the update. I was working from home, and I come sit with my wife and I pick up our daughter and sit on the couch. At first, my wife asked what I wanted for dinner. I was asking about what food we had, and she said she wasn't sure, so I checked. It dawned on me. The Trouble in Paradise episode. Be spontaneous. I told my wife, I'm going to take you out. I'd like to go on a date with you. She blushed and smiled and got very excited. We got dressed and we went out, but I didn't tell her where we were going. A couple of years ago, our favorite Mexican restaurant had closed down due to a fire. It had a special meaning for us. It was the first place we had dinner when we moved in together. The restaurant had just reopened, and I took her there as a surprise. We had a lot of fun. We drank, we ate, and more importantly, queso. We had a chance to talk about sex. My wife brought it up first. She said she wanted to give me an update, saying she's starting to feel a little something again but usually goes away when the baby cries. Our daughter is actually very chill, and we co-parent extremely well. My wife talks about me in public all the time, and so do even strangers. I get compliments about how great I'm doing when, in reality, I have no idea what I'm doing. Anyways, I told her I had made a decision about the vasectomy and how I want to go through with it. She asked if I was sure and that I don't feel like she's forcing me to. I said she's not. I said, right now, we need sex, and if we end up having another one, it'll be in 5 years or more. She asked if I'm sure, as there's a chance it won't be reversible. I told her that it's okay if it doesn't because we will find a way to have another one if we're financially able to. We have a plan. I have a doctor picked out, and my insurance looks like it's covering most of it and within our budget. As for timing, we're looking for ASAP. Now on to the next story. Story 6. I discovered my wife has been secretly texting a guy from her grad school nonstop for months. She even baked him cookies and arranged a meetup with her parents. We've been married for around 3 years, and we recently moved across the country so my wife could attend grad school. I found a career job in the new location and have been financially supporting us for the most part. She's been on her phone a lot more over the last few months. I've asked a few times who she's texting all the time, and she says it's just a friend from school. When I ask more questions, she gets defensive. Wasn't sure what else to do. So unfortunately, I took a peek through her phone, and I found out she's been texting some guy from her school all day, every day and night. The texts are from like 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day. The texts seem innocent overall, nothing sexual or anything, but there are a few things bothering me. I went all the way to the beginning of the thread. The first issue is that this texting started when my wife asked a friend for this guy's number and then started texting him randomly. Next, she is always the one to text him first, and she double texts him every single time he stops responding. I wish I were exaggerating. I've also never met this guy, don't know how old he is, don't know what he looks like. Although the conversation seems innocent, it seems like she randomly texts him just to start a conversation. Often tells him about our school drama, etc. It also seems like they spend lots of time at school together playing some card game. She has even left dinner with me early to go back to the school and play cards with him. She invites him to spend one-on-one time, whether it's at school, at the bar, or wherever. When her parents came into town, she even invited this guy to the bar with her and her parents. Further, she baked cookies for this guy. She loves to bake, and I remember her one day baking a batch of cookies she had never baked before. While I assumed she was baking them for a party she was going to that night, the text showed me that she baked them just for this guy. What makes it worse is the fact that she went out of her way to do it. I had the car that night, so she walked to the store in the rain to get the ingredients, baked the cookies, and brought them over to his apartment, where she stayed for 2 hours. She did go to the party afterward, but only stayed for a few minutes to say hi to a few people and left. One thing I've been a bit insecure about is the fact that my profession doesn't pay that great. She lived a very privileged lifestyle through her parents before meeting me, and she is in grad school for a profession that generally pays significantly more than mine, like 5 times what I make. She will make more in her summer internship than I make in a year. This guy she is texting is in the same profession. Reading these messages made me feel sick to my stomach. I just wanted to post here to see if this sounds fishy to anyone else. I'm not sure if anything physical has happened, but she has crossed some boundaries either way. How should I handle this? Tell Dr. Wife is crossing major boundaries with a guy at her school. Edit. The meetup with the parents never actually happened. She did try and get him to go to the bar, but the plan fell through. Also, in reading the texts, it seems like the guy tried to keep her at arm's length at first, keeping conversation short and not engaging too much, but over time started to become much more receptive and interested in actually talking. This has all happened over the course of about 5 to 6 months. Edit. I'm not paying for her school, just our living expenses for the most part. Update January 20th, 2024. I deleted the original post. Sorry, but I was able to have a conversation with the guy she's been texting. I got his number off her phone and just texted him saying, "Hey, this is her husband. I caught wind of what's been going on between you two, and just wanted to see if you'd be willing to be honest with me about what has happened." He responded pretty quickly and was willing to meet with me for lunch in a public place, so we met. He's 23 and very good looking. Give him that. When we met for lunch, I started the conversation by asking him if he could give me his perspective on what's been happening between him and my wife. He started with a disclaimer that nothing physical has happened between them, and honestly I believe him. He seems like a decent guy. He told me he respects me and never wanted to get involved with a married woman, and he started the story from the very beginning. I'll tell it as if he were telling it. It goes like this. I approached her at the beginning of school because I found her attractive. I don't remember whether she was wearing a wedding ring. I'm not used to checking for that because most people my age generally aren't married. But when I approached her, she seemed very interested. Absolute zero indication she may have been in a relationship. When she found out I had a postgrad job offer, she was overly congratulatory. After talking to her more over the next few days, I asked for her Instagram, which she seemed hesitant to give, but she gave me her Instagram anyway. When I followed her, I immediately realized she was married. I was floored due to her behavior, but I decided to fall way back. After falling back, I heard from some mutual friends that she seemed to be a bit offended that I stopped talking to her after finding out she was married. I found that a bit strange, but whatever. Some drama transpired, so I went out of my way to avoid her for around a month or so, but after a while I felt the beef was a waste of my time, so I decided to give her a compliment to kind of communicate that I don't mind being cordial with her. She seemed ecstatic about the compliment, and I heard from mutual friends that she was going around telling people that we were friends again. Found that strange also. I just wanted to be cordial. Anyways, we made up, and shortly thereafter I got a random text message from her telling me that she got my number from someone else. Third thing I found strange. The text started pretty infrequent but gradually progressed to her texting me every day, double texting and all. She even seemed really pressed about me meeting her parents when they came into town. Still not sure what that was even about, but I dodged the invite and it never happened. At this point, it seems she was very interested in me, but I wasn't very responsive over texts because she's married. Over time, however, my walls broke down slowly because I did enjoy the attention. She's inviting me to hang out one-on-one, playing cards with me, offering to bake cookies, etc. She told me how upset she was over the fact that apparently you two had planned a trip for Thanksgiving to see her friends but didn't end up going because of a tight budget. She also told me that she would sleep on the couch a lot. We didn't talk much over final exams due to being busy, and we didn't really talk much over winter break. However, at the start of this new semester, the texting all day, every day, and double texting came back full force. At this point, I kind of felt like she actually liked me and was pursuing me, but again I enjoyed the attention. She baked me the cookies the first week of school. Brought them over and sat on my bed for 2 hours, but nothing physical happened. She honestly didn't seem interested in sex at all, even though I kind of wanted it to happen at that point. But here we are now. She still texts me every day, and honestly it has become more frequent than ever before. That's the end of the story. This seems pretty consistent with the messages I read. I don't know what to think of this, but it kind of seems like she's playing the long game with him in order to get him to fall in love with her so she can leave me. I appreciate the guy's willingness to meet with me, and honestly I believe what he is telling me. Seems like this is beyond the point of no return. I still plan on talking to her tomorrow, but I think this is it for me. I don't think there's really anything she can say that will change my mind at this point. It's over. I'll give an update if I feel up to it. Update January 2nd, 2024. I deleted the original post on Reddit, but the previous post does a decent job of summing it up. I had the talk with her yesterday, and it's over. As crazy as it is, the guy actually didn't give her any heads up that we met, which I appreciated. Basically, I sat her at the dining room table and started by telling her that I heard what's going on between her and this guy. When she asked what I was talking about, I kind of just went through all the highlights of the emotional affair, highlighting the cookie situation, meeting the parents, incessant texting, disguising him as just a friend, etc. When I told her that it seemed to me as if she was obsessed with the guy, maybe even in love with him, and seemingly planning for my replacement, she immediately broke down crying. I almost felt bad, but kind of didn't at the same time. She then told me that she only did it because she liked the attention and nothing more, and that she would cut him off immediately. I shook my head. She offered to find a couples therapist while still belligerently crying, and I told her it seems like we're past that point already. Didn't really care whether she slept with the guy or not. This emotional situation was enough for me. I told her I'll be contacting an attorney this week and that she should do the same, and I walked out the door with her chasing me. I didn't even have anywhere to go, but I needed to just leave before she tried to convince me any further to stay. Didn't want to hear any BS. Received dozens of calls and texts while I was gone, and when I came back she just seemed devastated. Still got calls from her parents today as well, which I ignored. I haven't kicked her out of the house or anything. Not really sure what I want to do about that yet. I don't want her to be this guy or anyone else's burden. I'm just feeling kind of lost at this point. It's truly wild how abruptly this just ended after all this time. I moved to the state solely to support her, and now I'm just here. The majority of my friends and family are across the country. Maybe I should have seen the writing on the wall. Our relationship wasn't perfect. I've been pretty busy over the last year or so with work, and it seems like she took every chance she could to go to every single school party out she could without even inviting me 95% of the time. She was never home, and every time I asked any questions she would chalk it up to studying. How could I really argue with that when she's in grad school? It may not be entirely her fault, but I'm glad I'm getting out of this before it got any worse. 3 years isn't a crazy amount of time, and now it's time to go find myself again. This does suck though. Thank you all for your support. It really has helped me come to terms with this ending. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Husband and his female best friend went to a concert without me, then started acting strange. I snooped and found out he came home late, and she confessed to having feelings for him. Something weird is happening between my husband and my best friend, Dana, and I don't know if my head is just making up stories or their actions are really suspicious. My husband, Phil, and I are married for 4 years and are both in our early 30s. We are very happy together. He loves me a lot, but sometimes I've caught him lying to protect my feelings, which I do not really like. Dana is my best friend since college and we were roommates. Just to give some background about Dana, she was in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend for 3 years, but they broke up last year. He was also very insecure about Dana and was very controlling about who Dana hangs out with. Dana's boyfriend was really jealous of Phil for some reason, and they would avoid hanging out with us. However, since the breakup, Dana and I have gotten closer and spent a lot of time shopping, going out to restaurants, etc. Phil also loves to tag along with us occasionally, but not always. Phil and Dana also get along well, and Dana has told me that if I find another Phil, I need to set up a blind date between them ASAP. 1 month ago, Phil, Dana, and I had planned to go to a concert in our town. Phil was really excited as it was one of his favorite bands. I started feeling unwell the morning of the concert and just wanted to rest. Phil was disappointed, but told me that we can offer our tickets to our friends and we can see the band some other time. I didn't really want to spoil it for him, so I called a few of my friends, and my friend Jess, a mutual friend with Dana, was happy to go to the concert in my place. Phil still wanted to cancel, but I insisted he went, as I would have felt bad if he missed the concert. They all went together and enjoyed the concert. Phil kept on sending me photos all through the night. The concert ended at 11 p.m., but I slept before then due to my medication. When I woke up in the morning, I was alone in the bed. I quickly checked my messages, and Phil's last message was at 11 p.m., saying they are leaving the concert and he should be home soon after dropping Dana. I went to the living room, and Phil was sleeping on the sofa in the same clothes he wore to the concert. I waited for him to get up. I asked him about the night and when he returned home. He said that he came back home between 2 to 3 a.m. He said that there were multiple accidents outside the concert venue and the traffic was horrible. He said he dropped Dana at her place and came home directly. I asked him why he was sleeping on the sofa, and he told me that he did not want to disturb me and also was too tired to change out of his clothes. Phil had some glitter on his clothes, but that was from dancing in the crowd at the concert, so he just crashed on the sofa and slept immediately. It seemed plausible, and Dana also confirmed the story. However, the weird behavior started after this night. Firstly, Phil stopped tagging along with me when I was hanging out with Dana. He would come up with the most unbelievable reasons to avoid going out with me when Dana was there. Phil has also been a bit aloof with me since that night, and I have noticed him spending a lot more time in his home office playing video games at night instead of coming to bed. 2 weeks ago, I invited Dana to our house for drinks after we went out for shopping, and she also started giving reasons to avoid coming to our place. Dana has not visited our place since that day. The only time Phil and Dana saw each other was during a house party at my friend's place last weekend. I was observing their behavior, and they both were avoiding each other. I asked Phil about why he is avoiding Dana, and he said that it's just in my imagination. Dana also said the same, but then starts giving me reasons for not coming over to our apartment. I feel in my gut that their behavior is suspicious, but I am not sure if it's just my insecurity. How do I know what is going on? I have gone through Phil's phone multiple times, but the only messages between him and Dana are very sparse, and there are no messages since that night. I feel something happened between them that night, and both are just avoiding answering even the basic questions about why they are avoiding each other. Am I the a-hole for assuming the worst? I really do not want to come off as insecure, but it is killing me from inside. Comments where Opie has replied. Comment 1. NTA, something for sure happened, only question is exactly what. From what you said about her ex never liking him and her asking you to set up a date with another version of him, that she may have always had a thing for him. Maybe she was drunk and she went for it. If you cannot find out on your own due to lack of evidence, you need to sit them both down together and confront them both and demand the truth. Opie. I also want to do that, but I feel that if I'm wrong, not only would I lose a friend, but Phil is also going to be upset that I'm accusing him of something horrible. I just feel in my gut that things smell funky, but I am too scared to open Pandora's box. Comment 2. Have you asked your other friend about that night and see if she knows anything about their strange behavior towards each other? You should confront them either way. Maybe not accuse them of cheating, but state that their behavior is not making you feel comfortable and you rather not be kept in the dark if there is an issue or something to warrant their distance. Opie. I talked to Jess but didn't directly ask her about any suspicious behaviors. She told me that they all had a fun time. She took the train home while Phil and Dana went to the parking lot after the concert. Comment 3. Something happened. Only question is what. It could be what you fear and they did something together, or one of them tried and the other one said no, or might be something else, but definitely something that made their relation weird. Opie. One of the reasons I'm also very concerned is because Phil came home really late. He never sleeps on the sofa, but it was probably the first time he did that in years. Plus he had glitter all over his body, and I found glitter all over the passenger seat in his car the next day where Dana was presumably sitting. Could all be nothing, but my mind is just going in overdrive. I just don't know how to bring up the topic without sounding accusatory or crazy. Comment 4. Was the glitter on his clothes or on his body under the clothes? Opie. It was on his clothes and arms. My suspicion is they might have hugged, which is fine. He went for a shower afterwards, so I am not sure if it was anywhere else on his body. Update. I had posted last week regarding my husband and my best friend avoiding each other after they went to a concert together last month. I really wanted to thank you all for helping me in my time of need and helping me with my tech questions. Sorry for the long post, but I confronted Phil and Dana and was able to know what happened. I was briefly able to get access to Phil's phone last Friday night. I did not have time to retrieve any deleted messages. However, thanks to someone's idea, I opened his camera gallery and went through the photos he took that night. One important thing that jumped out was Dana's outfit. Dana was wearing a white shirt and denim shorts to the concert. As it was an outdoor concert, she took off her shirt and was only wearing a blue bikini top. She had some glittering fake tattoos on her shoulder and back. By the end of the night, she was again wearing her shirt. So for the glitter to be on Phil's car seat and in his clothes, Dana had to have taken her shirt off in the car. I was so angry and could not keep my cool anymore. I went and confronted Phil. He immediately broke down and started apologizing to me. He said that it was his fault that he took it too far and was feeling very guilty all month. He said that he did not want to tell me because I would have been very upset, and he just wanted to forget it. I told him to tell me what happened in detail, and he did. He told me that Dana and Jess both got drunk during the concert. Phil had to hold Dana while taking her to the car. Dana slept in the car for an hour while Phil was driving. When she got up, she started playing music and singing loudly. At one point, she told Phil that it is hot in the car, and before he could lower the AC temperature, she took off her shirt. Phil said he was very uncomfortable at this point and asked Dana if it's okay he drives to our house and she could sleep in the guest room as her apartment would have added another 30 minutes to the drive. She insisted that she wanted to go home, so Phil took her home. As she got out, she asked Phil if he could walk her back to her apartment as she still felt tipsy. After she opened the apartment door, she hugged Phil and said thank you. Phil said that he was sorry that the hug lingered too long and they had a moment. I had tears rolling down my eyes and asked him if they kissed. Phil told me, of course not, but he cannot describe it, but there was definitely a moment between them. He told me that Dana invited him in, but he immediately told Dana that he had to leave and made a run to the car. I kept on asking what happened, and he just said they had a moment that he felt could not control and just got out of there after he came home. Dana messaged Phil that he should have come inside the apartment. Phil kept on telling Dana that it was an accident and to forget about it, but Dana kept on asking Phil if he is attracted to her and if he had a good time. Phil told Dana that he is not attracted to her and never will be and told her to not tell me about it. She agreed and he deleted all the messages. He said that he sat on the sofa because they were messaging each other for a long time and he did not want to hear it. I asked him if he could retrieve the messages, and he told me he deleted them and also cleaned all his archive and sent messages. He just wanted to forget the incident ever happened. I showed him my post and thanks to a comment we went to find the messages on the SD card. Phil was right and the messages were the same as what Phil described. I am still very mad at Phil for not telling me about it in the first place. This is where it got super weird. I invited Dana for brunch yesterday and met her. I told her that I talked to Phil, and he confessed to everything that happened that night during the concert. I asked her. I wanted to give her a chance to tell her side of the story. Dana immediately became defensive. The story was the same until they got to her apartment building. Dana said that she opened her apartment door. She gave Phil a long hug for a great evening. She said that she could feel Phil wanted more, but nothing happened beyond that. I asked her why she invited him inside the apartment. She told me that she wanted to offer him some water and a snack as he was driving for a long time. I said that it's a really shitty move to invite my husband in her apartment at 1 a.m. At night when she felt he wanted more from her than a hug. She said that I was just being jealous and crazy. We started arguing, and she blurted out that she was not the one popping boners during the hug. I told her she is never going to see Phil again in her life, and our friendship is done. She started shouting that she knows Phil loves her and he does not act on it because of me. She went on about how I'm always complaining about Phil and do not deserve him. She said that Phil has been so nice to her after the breakup, and she feels he would leave me for her if he had a chance. She finally said that she could make Phil way happier than I ever could, and he has started to realize it now. At this point, I just wanted to avoid a blowout and walked away. I talked to Phil at night, and what Dana said, he confirmed to me that he did become aroused when he hugged Dana that night, and he does not know why. Dana held his hand and invited him in after the hug, and he just ran towards his car. He said he feels guilty about it, but it does not mean he has feelings for Dana. He said he is very happy being married to me and would like to keep it that way for the rest of his life. Although I am relieved that nothing happened between them, it has been hard for me to process my thoughts. I feel mad at Phil for hugging Dana in the middle of the night when she is barely wearing anything. He should know better. On the other hand, I feel like an fool that my best friend had a thing for my husband that I had no clue about and pushed both of them to go to the concert together. Now for some comments where Opie replied. Comment 1. Make sure you blast Dana to everyone. I'd also go as far as to change both your numbers. I still wouldn't let this go with Phil. He hid it from you, let you hang around this woman, had a moment, whatever the hell that means, and then proceeded to text her and lie to you more. I'd ask him to set up marriage counseling and to earn your trust back. Opie. Yes, I have made it clear to him how upset it makes me feel. He should have seen that Dana taking off her shirt in the car was a big red flag and told me about everything instead of playing cat and mouse game with Dana. Comment 2. Based on his initial unwillingness to go to the concert, I wonder if this wasn't the first time she'd put him in an awkward position. Opie, we talked about this. He said she never said or did anything like this before, but he also pointed out that the only time he has hung out with her before was when I was with him. Comment 3. I'm glad you got to the bottom of it. I have to admit, for some reason this story had my hackles up. Usually I can read these and be objective, but my gut was telling me your friend was being an a-hole. Opie. Dana was a sister to me for all these years. It's always the people you suspect the least. I don't know why she would do it to me. Feels so horrible. Comment 4. Don't let Phil off the hook. He made multiple bad calls that night, and you and him should work on the relationship. Dana wasn't your friend because friends wouldn't hurt you like that. Opie. I won't, and I'm really upset with him. This is not the first time he has hidden stuff for me to protect my feelings. He always tries to make everyone's problem his own and solve them to protect everyone around him. It's going to hurt him someday. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Son broke my dad's favorite vase. I offered to replace it multiple times, but he refused. Now he keeps complaining about it, called my son names, and got mad when I bought him a new one. When I was a teenager, my father bought a large glass vase, which he filled with wine corks. For years, it stayed on top of a small table in the living room. My family visits him monthly for lunch. Last October, my son was running around my father's living room and accidentally knocked the table over, which caused the vase to fall down and break. I immediately apologized and offered to buy a new vase. My husband and I also cleaned everything up. My father declined my offer to replace it at the time. He said he understood it was an accident and was just glad my son hadn't gotten hurt. He was 2 years old at the time, and there was a lot of glass on the floor. During the next couple of months, I apologized and offered to pay for a new vase multiple times. My father continued saying it was fine. However, earlier this year, my father started talking about how much he loved the cork vase and how expensive it had been back when he bought it. As the following months went by, his complaints began to escalate. He'd make comments about the fact that my son broke the vase almost every time we came over. Occasionally, he'd also joke that we should plan our visits with longer notice so that he could hide his valuables from my kid. Last week, he threw a party at his place, which we attended. A friend of his who hadn't visited in a while noticed the vase was gone and asked about it, to which my father replied that my little kid had broken it and I hadn't replaced it. My husband was nearby and heard it. After the party, I confronted my father and we fought. He said that he had the right to complain about the fact that my son had damaged his property. I told him that while he has the right to be upset, the fact that he declined my offer to buy him a new vase does not entitle him to complain about me not doing it. He can either retract his forgiveness and work something out with me or get over the vase and stop blaming my toddler for the accident. I won't have him calling my son names over this. My father is still insisting I'm in the wrong here. Now for some comments before the update. Comment 1. The solution would be to buy him a vase for Father's Day, his birthday, Christmas, every holiday. Buy him a vase in perpetuity. Make him so pleon with vases he wishes he never sees another vase again. Problem solved. Comment 2. I love the way you think. Buy him an empty vase and bring a bottle of wine to drink to deal with your dad's crotus. Deposit cork in vase at the next party. Point out how many times you had to drink to deal with his complaints. Comment 3. I was thinking to get a new vase and some champagne, then pop the cork which hits the vase and smashes it again. Comment 4. NTA. Your son was a toddler doing things. Your dad should have toddler-proofed the house. You offered to pay for a new vase. He declined. He can STFU about it. I always thought collecting and displaying wine corks was bizarre. Hey, look at how much I drink, everyone. One small bean. I think it depends on how you do it. My in-laws pop a bottle of champagne at momentous occasions. Big birthdays, anniversaries, graduations. They keep the cork and write the occasion on it. I think it's a nice way of seeing all the causes for celebration that they've had over the years. Comment 5. I wasn't allowed to run around in others' homes. I blame the parents and your father for complaining. Also, why wouldn't you just buy a new vase anyways? My dog broke my dad's glass water bottle. It was a special bottle that cost him $100. He said don't worry about it since he had it on the edge of the couch and all my pup did was walk by. I literally found the same bottle and shipped it to his home. He was super happy, although he said he didn't need another. When my friends come over, we go to a park so the kids can run. At my grandma's house, if the kids want to play, we sit on the porch. Children should learn boundaries of where to run and not to run. He's a toddler, so he should have had some toys or took him outside. I can't imagine allowing my child to run around my dad's house. He has a lot of glass. He's wrong for complaining, but you also should have just replaced it. Comment 6. This her kid broke it. Why would she not just replace it? What's this BS about asking if she had to? A sane person would just replace it. Comment 7, right? And even if he said no once, I heard him complain once, I would have replaced it. That way, if he did complain, I could immediately ask him about the one I replaced. Opie. I am commenting here because this is the most voted comment about this subject. I understand the assumption that I allow my toddler to freely run around people's homes. That is not the case. In this specific situation, my son started running around seconds before the accident happened. I just wasn't quick enough to stop him. In subsequent visits to anyone, including my father, my husband and I have managed to stop him sooner. My son is generally a quiet kid, so this behavior isn't that common. Also, I offered to replace the vase more than once that day. He said no, so I didn't buy one. After that refusal, I had no reason to believe my father still wanted me to replace the vase. If someone gave me a similar offer and I declined, I would not expect them to go through with it, nor would I blame them for not doing so. In response to a deleted comment, Opie explains why this has become a problem now. I haven't mentioned the vase in months. My father is the only one doing so. The only reason I'm getting involved now is because his comments are getting worse. Comment 8. How old is your dad? Hostility and personality changes can be linked to dementia. Opie, he is 60 years old. Update. After reading your comments, I decided to offer to buy my father a new vase again. I explicitly told him this would be the last time I'd make that offer. If he said no and continued to complain about it, he wouldn't be allowed to see my son until he'd calmed down. He eventually agreed. The store he bought the original vase from does not exist anymore, so I started doing some research. I found one I thought was very similar at a furniture store near my place. I bought vases from them before, so I knew they had great quality. On Saturday, we went on our monthly lunch at my father's place and took the opportunity to give him the new vase. He seemed grateful at the time and had a cute moment with my son as they filled it up with the corks. I thought this was done, but the next day my father called me. He had looked up the new vase online and noticed it was less expensive than he expected. Then he asked, "Are you sure this is the best you could find?" That's when I said, "Screw it. I'm done with his passive aggressiveness." I told my father we're no longer going to his place for anything. If he wants to see my family, he can come to ours. He protested, but I held my ground. My father did not communicate his wishes at any point and still complained about the outcome. I'm done watching my family be accused of being bad people, and I don't want this behavior to extend to my son any more than it already has. So this is where we stand now. My father doesn't like driving to my place, so I'm not sure about the future of our monthly lunches. I love my father, but I'm extremely disappointed in him. If all this means I will see him less than usual for a while, I might be a little glad. The time apart might be good for us. My greatest concern is my son's relationship with his grandfather, which I will try to encourage. The vase I bought would roughly translate to $100. I don't live in the US. My father told me he doesn't remember the original's price, only that it was more expensive than that. He was also not attached to the vase itself but to the corks that were inside it, which he managed to salvage. I'm certain of the new vase's quality. Now for some comments. Comment 1, NTA. Wow. Unless the new vase is obviously shoddy, which isn't the case from your description, his behavior is bizarrely ridiculous. I think you've made the best possible solution to this issue. At this point, it's up to him to humble up. Opie. I don't regret buying the vase, but I've done my part. I'd never react to this the way my father did, and I'm very confident about its quality. Comment 2, NTA. He says he's over it, but he keeps bringing it up. It's the same thing as somebody doing you a favor and never letting you hear the end of it. Did they really do you a favor? He was fine with the vase until he looked up the price. What difference does the price make if he was originally okay with it? The level of pettiness is amazing. So the price of the vase is more important to him than a relationship with his grandchild. Nice. Your kid is better off not being exposed to that kind of BS. Comment 3, NTA. He had looked up the new vase online and noticed it was less expensive than he expected. Who does that with a family member when they've done their best to put things right? My greatest concern is my son's relationship with his grandfather, which I will try to encourage. Kudos for that, but your dad needs to realize what's important and make an effort. Opie. I'm hoping he does. I grew up pretty distant from all my grandparents, so it's always been important to me that my kid gets to be closer to his family. That said, I'm very well aware that it's my father's responsibility to make an actual effort here. Comment 4. Please make sure your son doesn't become the butt of grandpa's "here's the little shit who breaks things" jokes. A funny family story can leave a permanent imprint on the target. Comment 5. This gives me flashbacks of how I was made to feel horrible for losing the pitch pipe that came with my great-grandfather's violin. Like my dad lost his right to the family heirloom because my grandmother was so offended. I looked up the cost of a replacement pipe in its original box. $4 on eBay. My grandmother made me feel like a monster over $4. Comment 6. Opie, I would like to throw you a different line. Have you considered the fact that your dad might have dementia? A dementia patient can fixate on things and ask repetitive questions about them. It just now occurred to me that your dad may well be experiencing early signs of dementia. If it is dementia, you can get him into treatment which may slow the progression of the disease. I'm a social worker who works with dementia patients. Comment 7. I know people like this. They are never happy with any solution and just want to complain to be the center of attention. Exhausting and good riddance to him. Comment 8. Same. I could see it pretty much immediately since those like him imprinted on my brain. What gets me is he lied. He was lying at his own party, saying they never offered to replace it. That's how we can tell he is a winner who gets off on it. Now on to the next story. Story 9. My husband's ex-girlfriend is dying, and her last wish is to be with my husband again. He is seriously considering it. First of all, I apologize if this is badly written. English is not my first language, so please be kind. As the title goes, my 30-year-old husband's ex-girlfriend, 33, was recently diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer, and her last wish is to be with my husband. My husband, let's call him Seb, and his ex, Tanya, became best friends after their breakup a couple of years ago. Due to her infidelity, they were together for 5 years. Needless to say, they remained in contact even before he met me. I would be lying if I said it never made me feel uncomfortable. It did, and it still does, because Tanya is still in love with my husband. She never denied it and, in fact, would even call or message me when she can't get a hold of Seb. Aside from cancer, she also has some mental health issues. Thus, my husband would always tell me to be kind and patient. Seb is no longer in love with her, of course. She cheated, and Seb swore that he will never get back to her and that he only sees her as family. 2 weeks ago, my husband received a call from Tanya to tell him about the sad news. My husband cried with her and told her everything is going to be okay. They were on the phone the whole day. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that Seb and I moved to Australia a few months ago because of my job, and Tanya is in Canada. They mostly talk via long-distance call or WhatsApp. They've been in contact almost every day since we left, which always bothers me. But what can I do? After that call, my husband told me everything. To be honest, I felt bad for her, and I genuinely feel sad. I asked him what's going to happen now. Seb told me he's going back to Canada, which is a shock. He then told me that her last wish is to be with him. I didn't say anything except, "What about me?" He said, "If I can't leave my job, then I'm going to visit you whenever I get the chance." I walked out without saying anything. I've been avoiding my husband since the phone call and ignoring him whenever he tries to bring up the conversation. Yes, yesterday I found out he already bought a ticket and is flying back home in January. I feel like he's abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel that I'm selfish for hating both of them. I'm honestly thinking of getting a divorce because obviously he's choosing her over me. But at the same time, I thought of why my husband is so attached to her. Seb considered Tanya and her family like his own, as he doesn't have one. She's probably like a sister to him now, but Tanya doesn't feel the same. She's madly in love with my husband, and him granting her wish will surely make her think they still have a chance. My entire life, I've been putting others first. I've been very patient and understanding about their weird relationship. I feel sick and confused. I want to call her, yell at her for ruining my marriage, for trying to steal my husband from me, for using her sickness to get what she wants, for being I'm so mad at both of them. What did I do to deserve this? Update 1 year later. My husband's ex is dying. Her last wish is to be with my husband. First of all, I apologize to those people who have been messaging me in the past year asking for an update. I was a mess after what happened and couldn't talk about it, even to my family. I was reminded of this post because someone messaged me on this Reddit account today. It's been over a year, and a lot has happened. I think I'm now ready to talk. Seb did end up flying back to Canada in January last year. Before he flew, we talked about the situation, and I told him I've been in contact with a divorce lawyer. He was surprised. He said he didn't expect me to leave him just because he needs to be with his family. I remember at the time all I felt was anger. I was so mad that he's making it sound like I'm the bad person. Nevertheless, the conversation didn't end well. He left without any closure, but he said he would be back in March. I was left alone. January to March last year was the darkest days of my life. I knew I did nothing wrong, but I ended up blaming myself for everything. I hate to admit it, but I canceled the meeting with my lawyer, as I started to doubt if I really want to leave him or not. I love him so much that I'm willing to accept him again when he's back. During the entire time he was gone, he rarely called to check on me. I had to call him most of the time. I know I'm dumb. I feel so alone and sad. I begged for his attention, to give me some of his time, to be with me again. All those times, he kept telling me that Tanya needs him more. March. I was expecting him to come back so we can talk, but he didn't come back. He said he needs to stay more and promised me he will be back in May. I don't know what happened to me when I got that call from him early March to tell me he won't be flying back to Australia. At the time, I felt like there's a switch that suddenly turned off because somehow I stopped caring. When he told me he won't be back until May, I knew I have to move forward without him. Fast forward to May, he was back. That day we sat down to talk. He broke down and said, "I can't lose you too." When he said that, I thought Tanya was gone. But no, she's not, and as far as I know, she's still alive to this day. I asked what happened, and he told me that Tanya asked him to go back and be with me. He said that Tanya is sorry for everything. Seb didn't want to leave her, especially when he saw how bad she was doing. They had a fight, and according to him, Tanya wants him out of her life. If I was the same dumb person, I would totally accept him back. But at that time, all I could think was he's only back because Tanya doesn't want him anymore. I let him cry. I comforted him and let him stay in my apartment. A week after, I told him I'm divorcing him. At first, he refused to leave. It was a long and painful process. But on my birthday in July, he finally realized that he couldn't manipulate me anymore. By August, he was back in Canada. The divorce is not finalized yet, but we have been separated since he left. He tried to contact me several times last year. Tanya also tried to contact me. Everyone, including my family, tried to convince me to give him a second chance. But that day in March, when I finally came back to my senses, I knew nothing can make me change my mind. As of now, I'm doing fine alone by myself. I got promoted last year and moved to a bigger apartment near the beach. I found new friends and recently got into Pilates. I've traveled Australia and New Zealand and met some amazing people. I feel like a completely different person. Last year was the major turning point of my life. Seb still bothers me from time to time, but he knows I couldn't care less anymore. Sometimes I talk to him. I still care, but not as much. I've been told by our common friends that he's not doing well. He became alcoholic and couldn't get a good job because of it. He's mostly couch surfing because Tanya doesn't want him to live with her. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, Reddit, for taking the time reading this and my post last year. Your advice means a lot to me. For those people who are in the same situation as me, please know that everything is going to be better. I thought I can't get through this. There are times I thought of taking my own life. It was hard, but I promise you it will be better. You'd be surprised how strong you are and how amazing life can be. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Am I wrong for going on a date night with my wife's friend? I went out for dinner with one of my wife's friends last week when my wife was out of town. I wanted some honest opinions on if I did something wrong here and how big of trouble I am in. So, to give full context, my wife was away for a week visiting her parents. She has a friend, Amanda, who she has been friends with for many years. Amanda has had a rough patch where she broke up with her boyfriend and also lost her job. My wife has been supportive of her. Last week, Amanda had an interview and asked my wife if she could give her a ride home from the airport. As my wife was out of town and my office is near the airport, my wife asked me if I can give her a ride on my way back from work. I did not have any plans and agreed. Amanda and I are not really friends and I only interact with her when we meet socially. I told Amanda to message me when her flight gets to the airport and I can pick her up. I picked her up around 6 p.m. and we were driving home. We were just having small talk about the new company she was interviewing at and her work in general. Amanda told me she does not have any food at home and if we can stop by at a drive-thru so that she can pick up some food. I was also hungry, and I suggested we can stop by somewhere and have a quick dinner before I drop her home. She agreed and started searching for places on the way. She punched in an address to a restaurant on the way, and we drove to that place. We did not know this, but this place was a pretty fancy Italian restaurant. She said, "This looks too fancy," and I said, "We are already here, so let's eat." I messaged my wife, "We are getting dinner," and she said, "Okay." We had a pretty fun evening and a nice dinner. She had a few drinks and I did not since I was driving. We generally never talk much, but she opened up to me, and we had a very nice chat. I never knew Amanda and I had so much in common and liked the same music and movies. I did not notice, but we were at the restaurant for 1.5 hours. Amanda was taking pictures during dinner and also asked the server to take our picture at the end of the meal. I dropped Amanda home. She gave me a quick hug and said, "Thanks for such a nice evening." I called my wife, told her I dropped Amanda, and I'm heading home. She seemed busy, and I just let her know I reached home and said good night. This is where things got a bit weird. Amanda messaged me around 11 p.m., saying thanks for the ride and she had a good time. She sent me our picture together. I saw the message and just liked it to acknowledge it. Later that night, Amanda shared some of the photos from our dinner on her Instagram, including our photo together, and captioned it as "Dinner with Friend." I am not friends with Amanda on Instagram and did not see it. Next morning, my wife called me and asked me how my date night with Amanda was. I laughed it off and thought she was teasing me, but my wife sounded pissed off and kept on asking me about all the details, like when I got home, which I was happy to provide. That night, my wife called me again and told me that Amanda told her about the night before. The issue was Amanda made the dinner sound way nicer than what it was. She kept on praising me for how I was a gentleman and treated her better than most of her dates, how I am a good listener, paid for the whole thing, etc. I feel Amanda also added fuel to the fire by telling my wife all the wonderful things I did for her during the evening. My wife feels I should have asked her before inviting Amanda to such a fancy place for a romantic dinner. She was also pissed that hundreds of people liked Amanda's post on Instagram, and she feels disrespected that her husband is going out on a date night with her single friend when she was out of town. She also jokingly asked me how our goodnight kiss was, and I told her it was just a hug. That seemed to make her angrier. I have not even told her about the late-night message from Amanda and me liking the picture with a heart emoji because I am too scared at this point. I wanted to ask if I was wrong to invite Amanda for dinner when both of us were starving and it was dinner time. Do you think my wife is wrong and overreacting to all of this? I was just being nice to her friend who she asked me to drive home. I also communicated with my wife all through the night, and she seemed okay with it at the time. She only got offended after she saw Amanda's Instagram post. Should I call Amanda and tell her to talk to my wife and explain it was just a friendly meal and I was not being inappropriate? Update. She came home yesterday evening, and I went to pick her up at the airport. I went on my charm offensive and got some flowers and chocolates on my way. While my wife was happy to see me after 2 weeks, I could see she was a bit annoyed by me. I asked her if she wants to stop by for dinner at a restaurant, and she gave me a look and told me to keep driving, and we will order takeout. She also asked me to cut the crap and be normal. After we reached home, we settled in, and I got the dinner ready. I decided to be direct and asked her why the incident is really bothering her. I told her that I know she is not an insecure person, and she also knows I would never put myself in an inappropriate position. While I understood why she would be annoyed by the situation, I would not expect her to doubt me. She was the one who trusted me to pick up her friend in the evening from the airport. As it was dinner time and her friend said she was hungry, it would have been rude of me to not offer to get food for her. Also, my wife knows that I always offer to pay for dinners, irrespective of if it is my friends or hers. It is just the way I was brought up, and we have fights during family gatherings on who gets to pay. I asked her what was the thing that was exactly bothering her and why she was okay during the night when I kept her updated about everything but got upset in the morning. My wife told me that the whole situation smelled funky to her. She told me that she does not doubt me one bit that I had any wrong intentions. However, The optics of it all was really bad for her. She said that she is not upset at me getting dinner for her friend. She would expect me to do that, and Amanda also appreciates it. She said that the issue started early morning when her mom barged into her room to show her Amanda's post. Her mom thought I was going out with Amanda behind my wife's back. My wife told her that she knew I took her out for dinner and told her about what happened. She then got a lecture from her mom about how naive she was, and this is how affairs start. My wife said that it annoyed her a lot. Her mom also looked up the restaurant and told my wife that it was a very pricey place and was voted best place for romantic dates by some magazine. She said her mom completely freaked out after seeing my picture with Amanda. So my wife looked up our credit card statement and realized I had spent a lot on the meal. She also said that Amanda has a huge social media following on Instagram and posts a lot. I think she is like a fitness influencer or something, but I don't really follow her. Even though most of the pictures in her post were of food, the last photo of me and her looked like a boyfriend reveal, as we were sitting next to each other. She told me I won't understand as I am not on Instagram, but this is how people announce they are dating someone nowadays. As the day went on, Amanda got more than 1K likes on the post, while a lot of people commented and saying we look nice. She was annoyed Amanda did not correct any of them, so she called Amanda in the evening to ask her to take the last picture down. However, Amanda kept on praising me and how I was charming and fun. Amanda told her that for all these years she felt I was snobbish and pretentious. I am a huge introvert, so I come off that way, but she was wrong. My wife said this was annoying because she has never seen me be charming with any of her friends before when she is around. Amanda was talking about all my favorite bands and how we should all go to see a concert sometime. Amanda told her she posted our photo because she has never been treated to such a nice place before and wanted to acknowledge me in the post. My wife never asked her to take down the picture because of that. She then had a lot of questions for me as to when I dropped her off, why I walked her to the apartment building door, and when I got home. I told her I can show you exact times and receipts for everything. But do we really want to be that couple who questions each other about every little detail? She can check when we got the credit card charge, the messages I sent her after dropping Amanda, and our Ring camera in the garage and come to her own conclusions. She asked me if she thought Amanda was flirting with me during the night, and I told her that was not the case. In fact, Amanda messaged me our photo at night, and I just sent an emoji instead of engaging in a conversation, mostly because I was busy with my video game. That chapter was closed for us, and neither Amanda nor I messaged each other after that. Amanda is my wife's friend, and I do not intend to be close friends with her anyways, as I have my own friends. I also insisted to her that Amanda was not inappropriate in any way during the night and maintained proper boundaries. So this incident should not affect her friendship with Amanda. In fact, if Amanda had any bad intentions, she knew my wife was out for the rest of the week and would have tried to message me again, but she forgot about the evening, and so should we. Overall, my wife seems to be back to normal after the conversation. My wife is not an insecure person. I could see why she would be annoyed by the situation. However, I know in my heart that I will never disrespect our marriage, and I had no reason to be sneaky or lie about the situation to her. I'm glad we talked it through, and I was able to answer all her questions. Thanks again for all your suggestions. Now on to the next story. Story 11. Because of a careless parent, a child had made me disabled. It's another night where the pain won't let me sleep. Might as well get this off my chest while I wait for the painkillers to kick in. I, 22F, used to work at a thrift store close to my house from December of last year until April. I used to go thrifting there with my mother. I applied out of nostalgia. The work was fast-paced, but I liked it. I would have liked it more if the clothes were cleaner, if the pay was minimum wage, and, if there were no kids that would attack you. We had many regulars who, with time, I became acquainted with, mostly because I was the only Spanish-speaking worker on the sales floor. One of them was a mother of 3 whose children always caused trouble, running around the store, breaking stuff. And no matter how many times I told the mother to keep her kids in line, she'd only scold them for a second, then let them cause havoc around the store again. I never would have guessed that one of her kids would attack me. This wasn't the first time the kid hit me, but it was the first time where it genuinely hurt. I don't know what that kid's head was made out of, but when the kid headbutted me full force on the hip while I was attending his mother, I curled and cried from the pain. I had to prevent the child from hitting me again while his mother was still looking at the red dress I handed her. My only guess as to why the kid attacked me was because I had the red dress in my hands, and the kid was playing pretend to be a bull. He was doing that foot thing you see bulls do in bullfighting. My managers didn't call an ambulance for me or refer me to a work accident doctor like they should have. I had to limp to my car and drive myself to my family doctor, where I waited 2 hours to be seen. I was given an X-ray, ultrasound, MRI, and painkillers. They detected an ovarian cyst, most likely from the hit. Doctors thought that was the source of my pain, but it healed. Since then, until this day, 6 months after the work accident, I'm still in pain and I still limp. I'm currently in a workers' comp case with the thrift store's insurance, only because the mother fled when my coworkers confronted her and never came back. My lawyer said that when the case is over, I'm most likely going to be on some sort of disability pension paid by the thrift store's insurance company. And until or if I make a full recovery, it's been 6 months with no signs of getting better. I can't walk long distances. I can't sit down for long. I can't crouch. I can't jump. I can't run. And I can't lay on my left side anymore. The pain won't let me sleep. I constantly feel something whooshing around my left hip joint, and I have nightmares about that day. What I'm trying to say is I really, really miss the mobility and life I used to have. My life is just constant pain now, and it's making me depressed. So to all the parents who might see this, please, for the love of God, keep your children under control. Edit. Thank you everyone for your comments, support, and advice. I'm really grateful to all the kind people here. I am removing the post because I started to get threats from users who are calling this all a lie. Now there's no correlation with the ovarian cyst and the work accident, but my doctors had told me it was. I'm sorry for the confusion. I know it all sounds absurd, but it happened, and I'm in pain every day because of a careless mother and her reckless kids. I simply just wanted to get this off my chest. I'm going to keep the post up purely because so many comments were so helpful, and I want to mention some things commented here to my lawyers. Again, thank you everyone who gave me advice and shared similar stories. I'm feeling hopeful and will advocate more for my health. Smile. Update. It's been around 3 months since I posted here ranting about my work accident. If this is your first time seeing this, I had a work accident at my old job at a thrift store where a kid who was known to be trouble headbutt me in the hip, and the mother denied it all and fled. Ever since, I have been more persistent with the workers' comp after everyone told me that I was misinformed and not represented well. I waited this long because just this month I got the news of what's really wrong with me. At first, I was told that my ovary and the cyst around it was the cause of the pain. That the kid hit me so hard that it caused a cyst to form and pop. Just thinking that's what I believed is silly, but like I said, I was misinformed. 2 MRIs with contrast later, they figured out I had a labral tear on the left hip joint as well as hip bursitis, a swelling of the bursa. I haven't been able to work or walk well since April of last year. I've been taking it as calmly as I can, but finally, I'm going to receive treatment. 2 steroid injections to the hip. The doctor is hopeful that my labral tear will heal, but he warned me the bursitis might be permanent. That's where I am right now. I'm just waiting for the shots to get approved. I did start receiving TTD checks, but the pain is still a 24/7 thing. At least my muscle relaxant helps me sleep through the night. Now on to the next story. Story 12. Am I wrong for not letting my sister be at my birth? Okay, so the key players in this story are me, F27. My husband, Kareem, 40. My little sister, Tasha, 13. And my mom, 58. For context, my mom and dad had Tasha as a last resort to fix their failing marriage. I'm nearly 9 months pregnant, like, legit 3 weeks out, and my husband is a second-generation immigrant. We weren't trying, but we're excited when we found out about the baby. We waited until we were out of the first trimester and told everyone after that. Kareem's family are super excited and can't wait to bring the baby to their home country. My mom was happy when we told her but made some grumbling remarks about being too young to be a grandma. I presumed she was joking. My dad, we told separately. He gets on great with my husband, and he said he would help Kareem and I with anything baby-related. At first, Tasha was excited, talking about how she's the youngest auntie. And it was cute. She is spoiled. I don't want to call her a brat, but she can get an attitude when things don't happen how she wants. But then, once we told everyone we were having a girl, she went quiet. We didn't do a big announcement, just told people when we saw them. We both have busy jobs and I kept working until recently. Luckily, I can work remotely if needed. My dad was excited to be a girl granddad. In some ways, I've been closer with him after the divorce. My mom put all her effort into Tasha and making sure she was okay, as she was the youngest. She has a bit of a golden child thing for my mom. Kareem's family got him a t-shirt that has a joke about being a girl dad on it. I've always said he gives off girl dad energy, so it's funny. When I got big around the 5-month mark, I was really ill. I had hyperemesis gravidarum and was admitted to hospital. I have a heart condition, so there was always a worry about side effects during the pregnancy. Tasha refused to visit me in hospital, meaning my mom didn't come either. But I understood why a 13-year-old might not want to come to a hospital. However, she has become so standoffish and rude to myself and my husband, scoffing when we talk about baby girl, joking how emotional I was, saying more trouble than it's worth, with my heart. She said we stole her favorite name when we announced it as Adley. She's never said that name before. She also joked about how fat I had gotten. Kareem had enough and told her to grow up, but my mom defended Tasha, saying she's probably just a bit jealous about no longer being the youngest in the family anymore. I tried to talk and ask her what's wrong, but she got an attitude again and told me I made everything about my baby and myself. We were discussing my birthing plan on a family FaceTime and how I have to have a planned C-section to reduce the stress on my heart. I'm a bit nervous, but I've had surgery before. I was trying to get my dad to calm Kareem down and asked if he'd be in the waiting room. He was really happy and asked if he could bring his good friend. We all know she's his girlfriend, but they won't admit it. He thinks he's too old for that. She's been sweet and knitted some baby blankets, so we agreed to her visiting after the birth. I got a call from my mom and Tasha, who were really angry I hadn't invited them to the birth or told them I had to have a planned C-section. I told them Tasha had complained about me only speaking about the baby, and my mom told me to not be so flippant. Tasha was rolling her eyes when Mom asked about the surgery, and I know she's 13, but something about it seems so calculated from her. My mom asked to be there, and I said she could be in the waiting room if she would be nice to Dad. Tasha started talking about how long it would take, but I informed her she was only invited to visit after Adley had been born. Now her and Mom are blowing up, saying I'm cruel for letting a random friend of Dad's visit but not letting my little sister be there for her niece's birth. I'm sad, as I hoped the pregnancy would bring my mom and I closer, but alas. Edit. I just remembered something else that happened. Tasha walked into our garden one afternoon without any notice to tell us and saw us making out on the swing chair. Nothing scandalous, but my hormones have been all over the place. Smile. She made a comment like, "No wonder you're pregnant if that's all that you do." She's also been perfectly nice to Kareem throughout the pregnancy. It's just me she has the attitude with. Edit. To as some people can't seem to understand, I'll reiterate. I've tried connecting to Tasha. I've tried communicating and comforting her. I've tried getting her excited about being an auntie. She's made cruel comments about my weight. I used to have an ED. How I'm an attention seeker to get pregnant. She's literally slammed a door in me, causing me to hurt myself. She's been all over my husband but ignoring me to my face. And she's made a comment about me not keeping my legs shut. This isn't about her being confused. She knows what childbirth and pregnancy is. She also banned our mom from visiting me when I was rushed to hospital and had complained about me talking about the baby. So I didn't include her in the conversation about the birth. She's not angry because I'm trying to keep her away from the baby. She's angry because I'm pregnant, and she will no longer be the youngest girl. I'd like to add that the family dynamic was pretty good until I got pregnant. She was Mom's favorite, but Dad doesn't do favorites. Update 1. Hi guys, I'm just really confused right now, but thank you all for following my story and giving me advice. Rest assured, we won't be leaving Adley alone with Tasha. If you want context, my first 2 posts are on my profile. Basically, after giving birth yesterday, I have to stay in for a week as it was an emergency surgery. As we had rushed to the hospital, we didn't have all the things I will need, so Kareem went home to pack a bag of my things for me. He stopped off at my dad's, and apparently Tasha was with him. Kareem was polite, and Dad was asking lots of questions about Adley and I. He left the room to get the presents he and his girlfriend had gotten for us, and Kareem was left with Tasha. Apparently, she was all over him but not asking any questions about myself or Adley. Kareem said she threw herself at him and tried to kiss him, but he swerved and got up abruptly, telling my dad that they needed to do something with Tasha as she was out of control. He told me what happened as soon as he got back to the hospital. He's really worried that people, my mother, will make him out to be a bad person. I think my dad has cameras in his house, so I'm going to ask him if there are any in the hallway. Edit. Tasha has texted me. Safe to say she's not being abused, and I know my mother doesn't have any male friends in the house. Tasha sent me a text saying she was sorry for trying to kiss Kareem, but I've stolen everyone's attention, and apparently, even our mother was asking about me yesterday. She sometimes literally refers to our mother as her mother. She then said I had to make it all about me by having Adley early, and she wanted someone to pay attention to her and felt like Kareem hadn't spent enough time with her recently. He's been kind to Tasha in the past. We've had her at our house and taken her on trips, but he's obviously been busy making sure me and the baby have been okay during the pregnancy. Edit 2. Thanks for the support, guys. I developed a blood clot last night, so I was rushed into another surgery to deal with that, and Kareem called my dad's GF to stay with him as he was nervous, and my dad was with Tasha. She helped keep him calm by all accounts and showed him how to bathe Adley, which I'm very thankful for. She also baked me my favorite cake for when I woke up this morning. It was so good. Anyways, Kareem is fuming with my mother and Tasha and how they've ruined this experience for us, and he wants to send my mother my hospital bill as I wouldn't have needed the emergency surgeries without the stress. We're going to take a trip once I'm released from the hospital to the countryside and get some distance between us and them. Update 2. Hi guys. I've just been busy soaking up all of the baby happiness. I'm doing well. Thank you all for your well wishes, and to the moms giving advice on how to recover from C-sections. Adley is such a sweet little girl. She's quiet and so well behaved and looks the most adorable in her little Taylor Swift cardigan that my dad's friend knit her. She was played all of the albums in utero. We've sent Mom the hospital bill. I'm not actually sure whether I'll go through with making her pay as we have better salaries than she does. But a little part of me would love to see her face right now. She sent me some annoyed texts about it, but I've told her that perhaps Tasha's allowance and clothes/SL beauty spending should be reduced to help, but we will see. Final update. Hi y'all, I'm not even sure if people want an update, but people do still comment on the other posts, so 3 months after my last update, I'd recovered from surgery and Kareem, Adley, and I had been able to go on a trip to the countryside to de-stress when I get a random DM on Insta, and when I look, she was following Tasha. Let's call her Lily. Well, Lily tells me that she needed to ask me something because Tasha has been telling their friend group something worrying. I bet you don't know what I'm going to say. Tasha had been going around school saying that she and my husband were having an affair. I couldn't even respond. I was so livid. Never mind how weird it is for her. It's so dangerous to be saying that, even among her friends. It puts my husband at such risk to be accused of awful things. So that was it. I'd had enough. I floored it to my mother's house and slammed in to find Tasha. She was sat there like nothing was happening and just smirked, making my blood boil. I'll admit I lost it a bit and screamed at her that she was unhinged and needed to be locked up. That it wasn't normal for a 14-year-old to want her sister's husband. Our mom came in asking what the hell was wrong with me. I grabbed both Tasha and my mother by their shirts and said she had 1 week to sort her out because we were going to the police for defamation. I just wanted to go home and snuggle my baby, but I stopped at my dad's and filled him in and told him what I told Mom and Tasha. He was completely floored. Lily was good. She said she didn't think what Tasha had been saying was real and thought I needed to know, and she said she told the others that Tasha was lying. I got some messages from my mom that night about me projecting my feelings about not being a good enough mother or wife on Tasha. I don't breastfeed, and at that time was still on maternity leave because of the C-section, but I intended to not be off work too long. Would be sending her to daycare. Made comment on my weight, knowing how I was scared of struggling with my ED again postpartum. Tasha had told her how she had no clue what I was on about. She really knew where to hit me. I won't lie. Kareem told me to put my phone off and rest, so I did. And when I woke up, Adley was in the bath, and Kareem had ordered us food in. We consulted with our lawyer and made a statement to the police about all of the abuse and lies we'd suffered from Tasha and my mom. We were told that they were both warned to stop, otherwise they would try to press charges. I've tried to avoid them since, although I've heard them berating me and my parenting through others. We went to Turkey to see Kareem's family for Christmas, and it was lovely, not religious. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.